test 1 2 1 2. Hello, hello. Hope you guys are doing well this evening. Good to see you, Shinigami. Good to see you, Ursa. Hope your evening is going well. We are going to hopefully finish up the Minato versus Kakuzu debate analysis tonight. Usual disclaimers, please be sure to check the full debate out on Six's channel. We are going to be doing, let's try 1.25 speed. I think that's what we did last time, because we still have about an hour to get through. That being said, I've got about 3 hours that I can spend on stream tonight, and I think we should be able to get through it because we've been through like the initial evaluation of some of the claims. We've talked about some of the overall argumentation from Noodles' standpoint, and I think Swag is basically just beginning to talk about the narrative of the series. So yeah, please make sure to check out part 1 if you haven't already. If anybody's watching the VOD back from this after the fact, it will be under the live section of my channel, and it will be up permanently as long as my channel is up. All the VODs from the streams will be up, will be there. Again, just as a little disclaimer, if you know me, you've been on the streams before, you know that I have pretty strong opinions, and specifically I have pretty strong opinions about Noodles and Swag and about this topic. So I will be pretty spicy, and I will be pretty blunt in my feedback. But despite that, the intention here is to provide peer review. Like, regardless of whoever listens to this, if you're a casual fan, if you're a power scaler, or if you are indeed one of the debaters or one of the community members, my hope here is to be able to just be like, hey, I think this is wrong, and I think this is how you could do better. Maybe that's arrogant of me to say or whatever, but, you know, that's what I'm attempting to accomplish. Obviously, putting my feedback out there into the world means that I need to be open to feedback myself. So if you end up disagreeing with anything I have to say, I'm more than happy to talk about it in the comments or on Discord. Link to our Discord server is in the channel description, so please feel free to stop by. As long as you're friendly, I'm sure we'll get along just fine. I encourage debate and discussion. We have a nice little thriving community there. Beyond that, I think we're going to get started pretty soon here to try and make some good pace through the thing that we're going to talk about. Let me say hi to Blackpool1VF. Blackpool, hope you're doing well. Blackpool asks, which game is this girl from? Not sure what you are referring to. If you're talking about the character who's on screen now, Six, who was hosting the debate between Swag and Noodles, was playing through Elden Ring, and this is just the character that he was playing as. I don't know much about the build or anything, beyond the fact that he is using my favorite weapon, which is the Milady, and the wing stance build is always a good safe bet. I think I see Pest Threads in there too. Knight's Lightning is great. So yeah, if you haven't played Elden Ring, it's probably the best open world game. It's hard to say. It's like apples and oranges comparing it to something like Breath of the Wild or whatever, but it's definitely one of my favorite games of all time. Hey there, Walkie Talkie, it's good to see you. Raw durability is on the menu tonight, that's for sure. Just for the record, I want to point out that, if I haven't already mentioned it already, the person who came up with the raw durability thing was actually Webcam Parrot. I think it gets associated with Noodles because he wound up, let's just charitably say, taking up the mantle from Parrot in terms of debating for Kakuzu going forward. But yeah, that was something that came out of his debate with Swag, and Swag's less than charitable video summarizing their debate. So anyway, just a little bit of community lore, I suppose. Let me catch up on chat real quick and then we'll get started. The Better Birdman. Yeah, you have an ongoing beef with that dude, huh? I'm surprised that you are still... I'm a little bit surprised because I feel like, having watched some of his videos, that his views seem to align with ours in general. Not that everybody in this community says the same thing, or believes the same thing, but you know. But yeah, I am a little surprised to hear that, but I do appreciate the compliment, and being the better bird. I'll take my position at the top of the roost. I don't mind that at all. Everything's going okay. Got still on some downtime from work, but things are picking up. Things are starting to get busy again, which is cool. I actually like the progress that I like having some structure. I like having specific tasks to do and feeling like I'm getting stuff done. But I've also been trying to do stuff like going back to the gym. I got my bike out of storage and I've been trying to fix it up so that I can go biking again. Just looking for opportunities to do more stuff. I feel like I got cooped up quite a bit over the past year working on this project that actually has sort of kind of released. I'm not allowed to like legally to talk about it yet, but it is out there in the world, kinda. So uh, there is a non-zero chance that some of you will be playing it sometime in the next month. And unfortunately, I'd love to talk to you about it more directly. I can't right now, but if you do pick it up and enjoy it, I hope that that it creates good memories and stuff like that for you. On intelligence scaling, I don't think any intelligence scaling for tonight. Always feel free to share if you like, but I'm going to be focused on the debate. Ursa says, I got one Shinigami. How would you rank those whose primary intelligence lies in physical combat? That's quite interesting, yeah. It depends, just like anything else. Ursa then says, like, I know it's a niche area with practically little room for study due to IRL combat being a complicated mix of pre-planning and improvisation, but still it's like chess to an extent. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think there is a great degree of like intellectual planning and outsmarting and like 4D chess, so to speak, that goes into a lot of shinobi fights in the Naruto series. Shinigami says, I think I can still use the same standards for intelligence, like how we scale detective work. Lawyer stuff can be applied. Okay, cool. Have we talked about Saul Goodman before? I know you've mentioned him as a character, but how do you think he compares intelligence-wise to somebody like Kira, for example? I'd be curious to hear that. Let's see. I think you can still use the name standards. Yeah. Ursa says, how would you rank Naruto characters' battle IQ compared to Bleach or even that of Aya no Koji guy if you like series with more grounded characters? I won't answer since it seems that was directed to Shinigami and I don't know about Aya no Koji, but yeah, I'll be curious to see what you guys think about that. Shinigami says this doesn't mean L can do can all of a sudden perform combat feats. We just use scaling cognitive abilities for this. Yeah, Shinigami, have you ever read Battle Royale, I think it's called? It was the thing that kind of inspired Fortnite and all that. Well, I mean, that is a very paltry summary of the chain of references and inspirations that were involved there. But the Battle Royale manga, which I think was inspired by a book, um, does have a character who's basically like perfect at everything, kind of thing, like infuriatingly good at everything. And I wonder if you would be interested in investigating his intelligence, because that's also like I think he's a genius, essentially as portrayed in the series. Let's see, Roger ability. Yeah, hey there, Luan. I am on a little bit early tonight because I have something else going on at 9 p.m. So I wanted to make sure that I got through as much of the debate as possible before then. So yeah, just starting a little early. Hopefully it's not an inconvenience to folks that I've been switching the schedule around a little bit. I've been trying to find like the sweet spot for when I can talk while before like being exhausted. You know what I mean? And around this time seems to be good, where like I've wrapped up my stuff for the day, and I'm able to just kind of spend a good chunk of time, and then usually around the time that I want to wrap up anyway is where I'm losing steam, and then I can kind of just like naturally transition out for the evening. Who am I currently scaling? Itachi. Oh, you're talking to Shinigami there? I see. Yeah, okay. I'm not complaining. Oh, I appreciate that. I hope you're doing well too, by the way. Shinigami says, let's put it like this: Aizen's feed. Okay, just skimming over that real quick. Blackpool says, I doubt my PC can run Elden Ring, but I want to play it for a long time. Yeah, I would have to look into the scalability of it, but I think it can actually be scaled down quite a bit for less pro gamer machines or whatever you want to call it. Also, it's available on pretty much every console. It's coming out on Switch too, and I think you can play it on PS4, but I'm not sure. That might actually not be true. Yeah, that might not actually work. I'll have to look into that. Yeah, hopefully you can check it out. It's really, really good. It's really it's almost infuriatingly good because it has made other games seem less good by comparison. Um, Shinigami says, okay, you guys are talking about intelligence. That's cool. Didn't Sasuke only employ a complex strategy involving Genjutsu and Danzo? Yeah, yeah. There was a lot of perception feats in terms of like cunning and execution of strategy over the course of that fight. Shinigami says the reason why is because he got caught up on internet drama and his instances of doxing. Oh, that's not cool. That's not fucking cool at all. One is faster than fleas and other is a cancer patient. Oh, okay. Yeah, I wasn't aware of that at all. I remember enjoying his takes on like, I think he had videos, but like I got into his stuff in the first place, where he was taking down cinema sins. Or not taking them down because he said he was a fan, but basically he was like kind of ridiculing some of the ways in which they were, overly simplistic and reductive in their criticisms. And I had enjoyed Bob's vids and Sean's similar videos, so it was a nice natural transition for me into that. Talking about transitions a lot tonight, into that content. And then I kind of fell off when he started, not for any particular reason, but I haven't watched a lot of his other stuff about like um, Marvel stuff. It was mostly for the CinemaSins, but I appreciated his perspective on that stuff. But yeah, that kind of community hostility, interpersonal, like going after people on a personal level, has no place in the in just in general. You shouldn't do that shit. Right? It's pretty awful. Shinigami says, I think Saul Goodman is better in some aspects, but I think Light is better. That's cool. You glaze Saul Goodman. Yeah, I mean, like, he is extremely cunning and extremely resourceful. I will say that. I should watch Battle Royale, the movie. Yeah, I saw it. I don't remember very well because I saw it a long time ago, but I remember enjoying it at the time. Um, for some reason, the only scene I remember is where a couple of characters are eating rice together while preparing for the next event in the plot. I don't know why that's something that stuck out to me, but there was something very charming about that. Hey there, Barkos. Hope you are doing good. Hope you're having a well. Blah, blah. Okay, so I'm already starting to not be able to talk. Great, this bodes well. But yes, hello, welcome. Hope you're doing okay. Last time we stopped at around the 1 hour, 7 minute mark. Granting that the debate itself started around here, so we've done about 50 minutes leading in, like starting to get towards the hour mark. Noodles, I think, had finished his initial round of scaling, and they had just started talking about, it seemed like Noodles' goal was to get Kakuzu to Biju level, which he arguably succeeded at least if you agree with his, like, the points of his syllogism. And then Swag is kind of coming in and talking about why Minato overall narratively is used as a higher benchmark than Kakuzu. So not to spoil anything, not to strawman, but I think what Swag's position wound up being for this part of the debate was essentially that Naruto defeats Kakuzu, and yeah, Kakuzu's impressive, yeah, he's cool, whatever. But then, like, by the time, like, Naruto has to go through so much additional training and so much more shit in the plot that when he gets to Minato's level, it's regarded as a much more significant, like, milestone to overcome. Like, him defeating Kakuzu involved him learning the Rasen Shuriken and learning to rely more on his own power and not on Kurama's power, in order to, like, cross the bridge to Sasuke, which is kind of like the whole theme of that narrative arc. But then beyond that, he then needs to learn Sage Mode, which is kind of an extension of that, and all the training that goes into that, all the chakra control, and just access to that ability, as well as, like, stable and ranged versions of the Rasen Shuriken, etc., and the Frog Kumite and all that he needs to acquire to kind of fulfill Jiraiya's legacy to be able to stand up to pain. And then all the training that he goes through to master Kurama's chakra and to integrate that into his skill set, and then to learn to kind of outspeed the Raikage. All of those things are additional, like, steps up a ladder that bring him closer to Minato. So him being relative to Kakuzu is like a feat for Kakuzu, but it pales in comparison to his eventual relativity to Minato, because Minato is so much higher up on the ladder, if that makes sense. And so I think what Swag is going to try to do here is present that as a narrative argument for why we as readers should be leaning more towards Minato being stronger overall, even if there's not, like, a precise numerical scaling chain. But let's see. Hopefully I did a good job of summarizing that. We shall see. Iona Koji said, Sasuke is carried so much by hacks. That is true, yeah. I can't tell how much his intelligence. Well, I think he needs to be able to intelligently deploy his hacks so as not to waste them, right? Sasuke's application of his abilities. Yeah, I'll let you guys continue that line of discourse. That sounds interesting, though. Innovative. Yes. I see. Okay, cool. Seems like you're working things out. Aizen use Kyoka Suigetsu. Okay. Blackpool says, I have a Ryzen 3 2200G and an RX 550. I doubt it's anywhere close to make Elden Ring playable. Yeah, I'm not sure, honestly. I hope so. If not, I hope that you can get an upgrade, because I would love to. I always like sharing that game with people, and I always like encouraging people to play it. It's also one of those games that, like, I think I'd probably put in more hours in that into that game than I have in several other From Software games combined, because it's just so expansive. like the first playthrough, I think, you know, I was taking my time and trying to do sort of a completionist run. And I think it took me about 140, 150 hours. And then I think I'm inching up towards the 800 plus hour mark, just because of how many times I played it and replayed it and tried different builds and like tried co-oping and stuff. Like, and I still don't fully understand the lore. I still don't fully understand. Like, there's stuff that I'm still discovering on new playthroughs and stuff. So yeah, it's the gift that keeps on giving, as they say. But anyway, yeah, let's get started. Picking up here at the 107.55 mark. Maybe I'll back up just a little bit so that we don't cut anything off. Again, disclaimer, I'm going to be playing the video back at 1.25x speed. Please make sure to watch the full debate. You can watch it on Six's channel. The debate itself, like, he has some preamble where they're kind of just like shooting the shit, and then he has a long section at the end where he's just hanging out in Discord talking to people. Noodles also has his upload, so if you would prefer, I personally prefer to watch it on Six's channel. If you prefer, though, Noodles does have his own version uploaded, just so you know. Yeah, and we're gonna get started in just a second. Marcos says, gotta go real quick, but I'll probably come back or watch the VOD. Best of luck for when Noodle starts talking about touching bodies. Oh, yeah. I'm looking forward to that. Well, anyway, thank you for stopping by either way. I hope you have a good night. Take care. Black Bull says, I want to upgrade, but the PC parts prices are just horrible recently due to the AI data centers. Yeah, it's, I haven't, like, upgraded my PC in a couple of years, and so I'm kind of out of the loop on that. But I've heard, like, I work on video games, and for the last project that I had to work on, you know, the company that I was working on is kind of secretive, not secretive, but they have like security concerns, and so they sent us computers, and they were like, these computers are locked down, you're not allowed to do anything on these computers except the work, and then as soon as you're done, you have to like wipe them and send them back, right? And you figure that this was a pretty big company, so they should be able to afford nice machines. But we were working on like pretty old, pretty outdated machines because they couldn't like get access to the cards. They were just using like whatever they had in the office, and they were fine. But man, like we were working on a Unreal Engine 5 game. I can just say that much, and it would have been struggling with an Unreal Engine 4 game. It's like. We couldn't modify the PC either. Like, I couldn't take out my own personal graphics card and shove it in there because it was all locked down, right? Like, so yeah, I think it's affecting consumers, but it's also affecting developers and larger companies too. It really sucks. And then when you hear about how those data centers are affecting people, I just saw like a local news report about a data center that started up near a residential area. I think it is in Kansas, but I'm not sure. Yeah, basically, it was the data center itself was causing like this low frequency pulsing hum, which was giving everybody migraines, and like there was all these elderly people who lived in the nearby vicinity, and they can't sleep because this fucking pulsing sound is constantly keeping them up, and it's driving them crazy and giving them migraines and shit. And it's like the data center folks don't care. So these people who have lived there for a long time, some of them like possibly most of their lives, are now going to have to try to move as senior citizens because they cannot sleep. Like they can't live there anymore. It really fucking sucks. But hey, they're gonna get a couple of bitcoins a day out of it, so I guess it all balances out, right? It's fucking awful. Yeah, I think I haven't looked. I'm really bad at let's see, DXDAG, at pulling this stuff out off the top of my head. Let's see. I got a Ryzen 9, and what's my graphics card? It's a GeForce RTX 4070. So I didn't spring for like the top of the line, whatever. But I did try to get myself something that was like I'd saved up for a little bit, and I was like, I hadn't upgraded my computer in a long time before then. Like I was working with a 1080 or something. Like I got a 1080. Using like a bonus that I got after closing out a previous project a long time ago. I got 1080, and then it just like stuck it in my machine, and I kept that same machine for, I want to say like 5 or 6 years or something, and then it basically just exploded. So I needed a new computer, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try to get some decent parts here. Hopefully will last me a while. And yeah, we'll see. So far this one's been pretty good. Had it, I think, almost a year now, something like that. So hopefully it stays together. Luan says, to be fair, the Sharingan assigns chakra certain colors, but it doesn't tell what seals a person is using. That's based on the person's knowledge of hand signs. I was able to see that Dataro used Earth style. Oh, that's a good point, yeah. It's capable of telling because Dataro showed his hand signs to the Sharingan user. Right, gotcha. Seems like a parallel with Kakuzu and Kakashi there as well. Okay, let me bring down the music a little bit. We will get started. Let me know if the audio sounds okay. I want to make sure that it's not too quiet. I'm going to check my levels here. But yeah, if you need any adjustments to the audio, let me know. Anyways, 3, 2, 1, here we go.
Relative energy and destructive capacity, that does suggest all the BG are fairly relative. So if Kakuzu is one of these hard and skillful masters that's even stronger than a Jinchuriki, then the text is outright telling us he's stronger than Yugito. So I don't...
Yes, I think Noodles is just wrapping up his previous argumentation there. I'll bring the audio up just a little bit.
Think I'm creating some like weird outlier. I can easily say that Yugito's just marginally better than the other Jinchuriki, and that be it.
That's
so
not what you're
trying
earlier,
to like
though, man.
force this position on me that I'm like totally outliering her from the rest of the Biju, and that's just not what's happening.
I didn't
I'm not saying
force
she's
it
like
on you. You,
significantly
like, walked
stronger than
into
the
it,
other
bro.
Biju. All I said is
Blackpool says, did a huge plunder 3 years ago. I got a 16 gigabyte RAM set. That's nice, but it's DDR5. Oh no, DDR4 motherboard. Are you able to get a motherboard for it? I did something similar to that where like I bought my graphics card and then I hadn't like accounted for, yeah, back when I got my 1080, I hadn't accounted for the additional power PSU like requirements, and so I installed it, and then the fucking thing wouldn't turn on, so I had to go and upgrade the PSU, and then I think I wound up upgrading the motherboard too, because it was like, I forget, I thought I was done, I thought I had the perfect machine, and I was like, yes, fine, this is gonna last me forever, and then I had to keep upgrading it. I had to use, I had to get like a FireWire card for something I was working on too, and then that's why I need to get the motherboard, I think, because I didn't have enough like PCIe slots or something. I don't know. It just kept being like this constant leapfrogging thing. Oh yeah, and then the motherboard that I got didn't have an integrated wireless card, so I needed to get that, and that took up a PCI slot, and that's it's just a constant, like, it was never finished for the longest time, and then finally it was done, and I didn't want to touch it for a while, and then it exploded. So yeah. String by telling people's names, he can construct the pattern he wants L-defined out of his name, and finding out the license, he can find out the optimal target. Yeah, it would be kind of cool to see if, like, the Sharingan could reveal things like the Death Note does in that regard. But yeah, so I'm not going to respond to what Noodles is saying here because we talked about it last time, and I want to get to Swag's arguments, so let's just keep going. I'm not like ignoring them, I just think we talked about them sufficiently at this point.
Is that she is stronger than the other Biju or she's better at controlling them specifically. So yeah, I do think she could be marginally stronger. I don't think it has to be to any like quantifiable extent or like major extent, especially considering like the other Biju can like match her overall destructive capacity. In fact,
by the way, for anybody watching this like Blackpool, you might want to just listen to the audio if you don't want Elden Ring spoiled for you, or you might want to like hide the screen or something and just keep the chat up, because I will say that 6 is in a very late game area, and he's about to come across a major boss, which is a major spoiler. So if you plan on playing the game, you should be aware that he's about to spoil. Well, he's not spoiling it, right? Like, he's been playing the game for years, but you will be spoiled on it watching this stream, so heads up to anybody who hasn't played Elden Ring yet. If you do, frankly, like, turn off the stream, go play it now if you can, because it's a better use of your time. It's a fucking awesome game. And I don't want you to be spoiled, because the final boss reveal here, or this boss reveal, I shouldn't say final necessarily, is fucking awesome, and I don't want to spoil that for anybody. Welcome, Slimy Orb. I'm doing just fine, thank you. How are you? Thanks for joining us this evening.
Fact, it just might make her faster or better at like using certain techniques and stuff like that. We don't really know. All I know is
Leon,
that
did you ban Seth from talking?
Statement that she's stronger.
Carlash, undo that.
So yeah,
whatever.
definitely proven that Kakuzu's stronger. So that's my strength scaling.
Everybody can talk, bro.
Yeah, so Noodles is the main person talking, and then if you're not familiar, 6 is the person who's talking, like kind of talking over him, and then Swags can start talking in a second. Swag is arguing in favor of Minato, and Noodles has got Kakuzu.
Go to speed next, or durability? Or
can I just give like a
You said
I think I might actually skip ahead a little bit, because I think we talked about some of this stuff.
Tail beast bombs get deflected. Kakashi thinks Minato rose back from the dead and he's looking.
Wait, never mind. Sorry, let's go back.
Argument. Sure. Walk around the subject this time. Okay. So
here we go. Black Bull says I haven't used it. It's sitting in the box till day. Oh no! If I want to actually use it, then the motherboard won't be. I would need a new CPU, PSU, and a new entire cabinet to fit all that. Yeah, that's it kind of sucks. I don't know what to suggest. Maybe if you still haven't resolved it by the next time, like a Cyber Monday sale comes around, sometimes various places have a like they have like sales on pre-built machines, and various companies can get like big deals or big discounts. That's where I got my current machine actually. So you might be able to save some money and trade up some parts or something like that. But yeah, that's very frustrating. I'm sorry to hear that, dude.
This is actually a little bit funny because we get these types of comparisons in the Hidan Kakuzu arc.
No, anybody can type in chat. I
Minato
don't
is
care.
being used for a narrative benchmark for Naruto, like well into the 500s, I believe. You have the famous scene where you brought it up, the five-tailed beast bombs get deflected. Kakashi thinks Minato rose back from the dead and he's looking and it's Naruto, right? Um, and even if you don't want to agree that that's like a direct line of scaling between Naruto and Minato, the fact remains that 200 chapters after Naruto beat Kakuzu by himself, insisted that nobody helped him, said that, despite the fact that like teamwork is really important, I don't want anybody to back me up, I got this, then hit Kakuzu with a Rasen Shuriken twice. The series is still using Minato as a tool for Naruto hype when,
A couple of notes there. Okay, obviously, like, he technically didn't hit Kakuzu the first time, but he was about to. If the Rasen Shuriken hadn't fizzled out, he would have hit him if he was like a second faster or whatever, like a marginally faster. So minor nitpick, but I'm very nitpicky towards Noodles points, so I might as well be equitable towards or like apply the same standard to Swag as well. And also, I think what he's trying to establish here, like, I'm kind of like repeating myself from before, but he's trying to establish that, like, okay, regardless of like, even if Noodles doesn't accept a scaling chain or whatever, the series itself is more esoterically or in the abstract establishing Minato over Kakuzu. Now, this is one of those things where I think that sometimes narrative analysis and interpretation can be at odds with power scaling, because I absolutely 100% agree with what Swag is saying. I think it's extremely clear that Kakuzu is kind of like presented in the story as a bit of a villain of the week, that doesn't necessarily, that in and of itself doesn't say anything about his strength one way or another, but saying like Deidara presents an obstacle to Naruto, Itachi does as well. Various characters that he comes across, Hidan, he never really messes with Hidan, but like he encounters Kisame and stuff, right? There are other characters who he bumps up against and has a confrontation with, but Pain is obviously a much more significant adversary to Naruto and represents a much more significant challenge for him to overcome. And then fucking his like Obito also later on represents an even more a greater challenge. Obviously, he reaches these milestones as a person, and when he encounters various characters, his conflicts with them aren't just about how he scales against them, like whether or not he's faster or stronger per se, but also about whether or not the strength of his ideals are superior to theirs, and whether or not he can help them identify their hypocrisy and resolve that, right? So I think that anybody who reads the story from a casual standpoint would be correct in coming to the conclusion that Minato, in terms of the comparison that he represents to Naruto at the end of all of those milestones, like having accomplished all those things, represents a much more powerful, imposing figure or whatever than Kakuzu does, esoterically, right? Also, Kakuzu doesn't get the same level of narrative hype as somebody like Minato does, right? Sure, he has a legacy of being, a terrifying murderer, bounty hunter, rather, somebody who is clearly, like, very accomplished, very talented and skilled. He has access to all these elemental nature transformations, which a lot of people don't have. He is respected and regarded well by his peers in terms of his abilities, for sure. Even being acknowledged by Pain and incorporated into the Akatsuki is like a big acknowledgement in and of itself. And Kakashi also is like, hey, this motherfucker is somebody we have to take very seriously, right? So it's not like he's a joke, but if you compare those narrative statements and the way that he's framed, compare that to the fourth Hokage, just go through the series casually and just pay attention to the way that people talk about Hokage, Minato, and then compare that to how they talk about Kakuzu. There's a vast difference in the way that they're portrayed, right? So I think that it's very clear that the intention of the author, if you want to put it that way, or at least the point of the story, is emphasizing Minato over Kakuzu. But when it comes to power scaling, you can't really necessarily put that into a quantifiable, like, syllogism or scaling chain, or really make that into a strong argument that I think most people are going to accept within that context. And so if you agree to, like, the house rules or the bout rules of a power scaling debate, you are also agreeing to a certain set of standards and a certain, I guess, like philosophical rigor to it, right? To be a little pretentious about it. And I think that while I agree with Swag overall, like I think he has the stronger position, the better understanding of the series in this instance, I also think it's very challenging to turn that into an empirically verifiable, you know, syllogism of scaling chain data that can then be used in a debate. One of these people is arguing based off of like a meta strategy based on specific feats and statements. The other is arguing based off of a more esoteric, more figurative interpretation of the characters. And those two like approaches to literary analysis is one way to call it. I think clash. I think that they're sort of incompatible within the context of this debate. I don't think they should be. I think those two things should be allowed to work in harmony, but especially if it's like a competition, I think that it's challenging to do so. And this kind of reveals, for lack of a better word, a lot about the individuals who are doing the debate. From my perspective, Swag has never really been motivated by getting out there and putting down meta arguments to try and win competitions. He's just been trying to explain in a general sense for a general readership how things work basically. Like sure he'll do versus battles and stuff like that, but you know, a lot of I think a lot of the videos that got him recognition in the first place was like his 10 to 20 minute videos being like, this is how the curse mark works, this is how the Sharingan works, etc., right? It's more about sort of explaining the narrative significance and the basic functionality of things in the universe, as opposed to being like, here is objective, undeniable proof that this is that and that is this and this guy beats this other guy, blah, 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 right? Noodles, on the other hand, is more about that. He's more about the meta argumentation, more about the strategy and tactics, and more about trying to, I guess, like, draw a line in the sand and be like, okay, over here is, like, facts and logic, and over there is your, like, namby-pamby little fucking narrative interpretation or whatever you want to call it, right? Like, so, it's interesting to listen to debates like this and see those two perspectives clash, but also I wonder if it's even like if there's something inherently unproductive about it, because they're not even speaking the same language a lot of the times, and they're not really trying to empathize with each other's perspective and steelman each other's perspective. I think maybe Swag is trying a little harder than Noodles is, but at the end of the day, they're just kind of talking around each other. But anyway, enough pontificating for me. We'll get back to the debate in a second. Blackpool says portrayal and actual scaling is a different thing if we count feats. Kakuzu fought against Hashirama, as stated by him in early Shippuden. Yeah, exactly. He was defeated, though, and I think that's worth keeping in mind. But the fact that he survived at all, well, it's weird, right? It's like, so here's the thing. I would actually say that his fight with Hashirama could be used to upscale him, because he fought against, like, one of the strongest shinobi in the entire series, period, and he survived. And you could just say, okay, that means that he's narratively being framed as basically like a Hashirama rival or something like that. But if you then put that into the context of a debate, it's like, well, we have zero idea of what happened over the course of that fight, right? Like, maybe Hashirama took absolutely no damage, completely no diffed him, and basically just like spared him on a whim or out of mercy or something like that. Maybe Hashirama was seriously pressed. I find it difficult to believe that Kakuzu, before having access to Junggu or his hearts or you know, the 90 years of experience that we see, like, well, fewer than that, more like probably 85 or 70 or no, 75 or 70 years of experience, something like that, right? Probably since that fight happened. Like, we look at Kakuzu and his performance with Junggu, with the Five Hearts, with all of his accumulated experience and tactical knowledge and wisdom and all that stuff. Look at how he does against Kakashi. Now, picture him like 70 years younger, or 80 years younger, however young he was, I don't know for sure. And then take away the bonus hearts and take away the tentacles and take away all the experience and extra training and stuff like that. And how well do you think he did against Hashirama, right? So it's important to keep those things in context. Yeah. Let's see. I feel like the narrative argument holds more weight simply because it's a discussion about a narrative. Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that. But it's like, you know, not to belabor this point too much, but it's like, at some point I need to talk to Eon again about the Foxy light beam laser thing, but I have been hesitant to do so, because, or light speed lasers, because I've just been like, I don't know how to explain the disconnect we're having. But I guess one way to put it is, I'm reading a series, One Piece, where somebody takes a gun and feeds the gun a fruit that's like the dog fruit or whatever, and the gun turns into a half dog that can shoot cannonballs, that can take orders from people, and like is a dog, right? And then they go to like this place called Skypiea, which is a giant floating multi-layered island of clouds, that the clouds themselves can be carved and shaped and made solid or made fluffy. And it's like, so this is like a fantasy cartoon, right? Like, that doesn't mean you can't power scale it or whatever, but if you take that context and then apply it to the Foxy thing, it's like, I think saying that because Foxy's beams are necessarily the speed of light because they're called light because they're said to be made of photons or whatever, makes more sense if you haven't seen all of the crazy fantasy goofy shit that comes before it. Within the narrative context of this being an extremely light-hearted, fast and fancy-free, or whatever the term is, just like very fantastical series, then all of a sudden, like, that strict scientific approach doesn't really work as well. But I have a feeling that if I were to bring that up, it would just get dismissed because I've tried and it's not going anywhere. So, but yeah, like, obviously this is why I was so staunchly opposed to what Swag was saying about, like, not Swag, sorry, Sage of Thick Calves was saying about, like, all this stuff about the star lore and the constellations and all that stuff around Tonnery doesn't matter. It's like, no, the culture in which a story is created matters a full fucking lot. The context, even the genre, the medium in which a story is being told matters a lot, right? Like, so yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I wish that there would be a more of a middle ground or gray area between the like hard and fast empirical scaling or whatever and the more esoteric narrative scaling. Ursa says, Foxy isn't light speed with his shit. That's just Eon going off the best scaling chain he can, not actually listening to the possibilities. Yeah, I mean, like, the argument that not to straw man, but the argument that he's given me is, like, multiple characters call it light, and they say that it's a light beam, and then they say that it's made of photons, and photons are light, and so they're light speed. That's essentially his argument. And then whatever other context I bring up, like, well, I won't get into it because it's not a One Piece stream, but like whatever context I bring up gets like dismissed, and he just kind of keeps like falling back on that. So I have to figure out a way to reconcile. I don't know how yet. I don't know how to explain the disconnect, but I'm continuing to read through the series and I'm taking a lot of notes. So we'll see. There's no empiricism involved. There can be, but yeah, it definitely feels weird. Scientific logic doesn't work in One Piece, says Blackpool. Like, we have humans the size of a 2-story house and build like a refrigerator. Yeah, exactly. So I think the context of the story being as fantastical and cartoonish as it is establishes a precedent, and that precedent is that that things don't necessarily work in a scientific context the same way that they do in our world. Like, I don't have a problem with characters breathing air or there being such a thing as like friction or buoyancy or whatnot, but at the same time, it's like that doesn't mean that every single thing is necessarily a one-to-one with reality. And so if a character shows up and he's like shooting out purple like glowing discs from his hands and he says these are slowpoke photons, a new type of photon that hasn't been explained by science yet or whatever, and they slow people down and they can be modeled into a sword that can be used as like a sword whip thing, and they can be molded to like resemble the head of the user, maybe, just maybe, it's not safe to assume that they are necessarily exactly the same speed as light in our real world. Especially if you then see a character who's capable of dodging them, but then also, like, people say, wow, he just dodged a cannonball? That's insane. I can't believe he dodged a cannonball. It's like, okay, well, is the cannonball the speed of light now, too? Like, anyway, I'm getting off topic. Ursa says, you can't explain the disconnect to somebody who doesn't want to see it. I know, but I can't let it go. Despite your wisdom about non-attachment, I still can't let it go, and I need to fix the problem. So we'll see. Hey, Dr. Strangle, hope you're doing well. Dr. Strangle says, doesn't it going into unnecessary detail about it being the photons point to the series treating it differently from its usual gags that are usually not explained mechanically? Well, that's the thing. It depends. I see where you're coming from, but I think that my interpretation of this is that he's saying, okay, this is basically light, and it's made of photons, but it's a different kind of light than the light you might be used to, and the photons are also different than the photons you might be used to by like by default, right? So it has some of the same properties of light, like it lights things up, it can be cast outward in a beam, it can reflect off of mirrors and stuff like that, but also the photons aren't photons, they're slowpoke photons, and they have different properties. Like, he is specifically saying this light does that, right? Like, he's creating a distinction between them. But to his credit, like, Oda does actually go out of his way to try to weave in some science. Like, in Skypiea, he explains, like, I haven't verified if this actually makes any sense at all, but he has a line about how, like, volcanic eruptions send keratin into the atmosphere, and then it, like, combines with another, like, made up in universe substance that then leads to the different forms of clouds being made. So you know, it's not like he's ignorant to science in general. It's just that, like, I think that we need to allow for more nuance within the rule set of the universe. Black Bull says, even devil fruit may have very complex logic. You cannot eat two devil fruit, but Blackbeard has two devil fruit powers. Oh, interesting. And non-living objects having devil fruit powers. Yeah, the thing with the dog, the gun becoming a dog was like, okay, so you know, it's like, I don't know if you guys have seen that, the Indiana Jones movies, but there was supposedly an interview with Harrison Ford, who plays Indiana Jones, talking to Steven Spielberg, and he was trying to get into the character, and he said, okay, Steven, I have a question for you. Indiana Jones wears a fedora, right? Not like a trilby, like an actual, like, big fedora. I just look up a picture of him if you're not familiar. And he says, okay, so if my character falls and rolls around on the ground, does his hat come off, yes or no? And Steven said, no, it stays on. And then Harrison Ford was like, okay, I know exactly what kind of movie we're making, right? Because in any normal circumstance, Indiana Jones would lose his hat in like 5 minutes and then never see that shit again. But it stays, like, glued to his head, essentially, because it's part of his iconic image. And so I don't think the correct approach would be to power scale Indiana Jones's hat and, like, try to determine the amount of suction that it would need to have to stay on his head, because the point is not that, like, that hat in universe has some kind of, like, preternatural ability, or it's some special advanced space technology that, like, increases suction to the head or whatever. It's just like a trope. It's a conceit. It's a like an element of fantasy in the movie that should be obvious, but I guess is confusing to some people. Ursa says, the solution I propose is creating a video about it, debunking the concept, and letting it go after that. Yeah, honestly, I think I should put more effort into making my own stuff as opposed to trying to chase down other people and debunk their stuff. Which I know that might seem ironic given these videos, but these videos feel more like me making content, like these streams, like reacting to stuff, because it's an analysis and a discussion that we're having together as a group, as opposed to me, like, yelling at somebody in Discord, which doesn't feel like content creation, right? Dr. Strang says, people don't have experience with photons, they have everyday experiences with light. That's true, that's true. Black Bull says, devil fruit even have a will of their own and are born from human desires like somebody... Oh, I'm actually going to skip that because I haven't read that far in the series yet. I'm only up to Skypiea. Not to ignore you, but I don't want to be, don't want to do any spoilers, so I'm going to skip that for now. Ursa says, we could totally do that, but it wouldn't be adherent to the canon of the story and would be dismissed. Yeah, I think that's an important observation to see. Like, we could do it if we wanted to, but, like, there's a difference between saying, okay, just for fun, let's try to imagine what a auto-adhering, like, sci-fi hat would need to have in order to stick to Indiana Jones's head. But we shouldn't then, like, flip around and say, okay, so it is an objective, undeniable, indisputable fact that Indiana Jones has a sci-fi hat in universe. And that's where I start to get frustrated with people, like not even with people as individuals, but, like, a lot of times when I disagree with people's takes, like, fucking... Why do I keep forgetting his name? Sage of Thick Calves, and Von Key and Noodles, and anybody else that I've disagreed with. It's like, I don't mind I actually really like creative, weird, oddball interpretations of things. I don't mind that at all. What I mind is when you guys turn around and say this is undeniable, indisputable, objective fact, and if you don't agree, you haven't read the series, and you don't understand argumentation, you should go back to school, and, like, or all of the incredibly worse things that that certain members of that group of characters wind up saying. Hang on a second. I need to remind my partner where her food is that I ordered for her. 1 second. Okay. Got some Thai food tonight. Okay, yeah. So let's get back to it.
Kakuzu, there's no reason to mention him because he's a mid-tier at best Akatsuki member. And, Minato is, as anybody will tell you, no Ratatouille involved. He's like, like generally people put him, Minato versus Hashirama, et cetera, right? It's consistent with the rest of the text. And you can't find any examples of Kakuzu being used as a narrative benchmark like this.
So he made a new point there, so I have to respond to it. So he made the point that Naruto hit him with the Rasen Shuriken twice, and Minato
Dr. Strangle says the guy who tells us about how Devil Fruits literally looks like Albert Einstein in the series as a whole seems to go by a modern 20th century pop understanding of science. I will keep that in mind for sure. I'll look out for that as I continue reading. And Shinigami's still drawing. That's great. Keep it up. Keep up the great work.
Still used like as a benchmark like way later on in the series. So there's a couple of problems with that. Firstly, Minato's not being used as a benchmark. Secondly,
well, I need you to explain that. I need you to explain that before we move on.
No, I'm not gonna move. I'll explain that in a minute. You know what's funny about the Rasen Shuriken that you mentioned?
Yeah.
That how he like hit Kakuzu? It's kind of funny that it's directly stated to surpass Minato.
Okay, so here's the thing. With regards to the Rasen Shuriken surpassing Minato, first of all, I think it would be well within Noodles' right to ask SwagKage for scans supporting the narrative. I also like all the points that he just made. I also think it would be fine to shake hands on this and be like, okay, we've read the story, we basically know the main beats, right? Like, do we really need to pull out a picture of Naruto sitting on his swing and being sad? Do I really need to pull out a scan specifically of like Orochimaru fighting Sasuke in the fucking forest? Like, we all know that happened, right? Like, there's certain things that I don't know if we need to pull them out unless we're specifically referencing like a very specific feat or image or whatever. But that's just me. Like, anybody who makes a positive claim takes on the burden of proof on that claim, and their opponent can absolutely call for that scan, for that evidence. That's totally fine. That being said, Noodles did make the positive claim that Minato is not a benchmark, which I think is a very bold claim. I don't know how you could possibly substantiate that, but he has inherited the burden of proof on that since he made that as a positive. Like, he is forward saying that Minato is not a thing, so that's a positive claim, even though it's negative in that it's saying no. And so he would have to demonstrate that. And like negative claims like that, like claims that are saying like this thing never happened, this thing is not the case, that can be harder to demonstrate. So we'll see if he comes back around and shows evidence for that. But regarding the Rasen Shuriken specifically, this is something that I think Swag should definitely have asked Noodles for scans for if he didn't. Because, yes, it is true that in terms of jutsu creation, right, Minato was not able to perform the feat of taking the epitomized shape transportation of the Rasengan and adding nature transformation to it. He was not able to create that caliber of jutsu, which is like what Kakashi described as the S-rank jutsu that incorporated those two things. Kakashi himself wasn't even able to do it, right? So Naruto did reach a new level of jutsu, and he had a jutsu that was stronger than the Rasengan, and potentially stronger in terms of AP than anything in Minato's arsenal. In terms of like combining shape and nature transformation, that doesn't mean that the Rasengan itself or the Rasen Shuriken itself surpasses Minato holistically or overall. Noodles would have to define what he means by that, but like Minato has a whole roster of abilities. Like, he has his own stats which are not synonymous with those of the Rasen Shuriken or with Naruto throwing the Rasen Shuriken or whatever. He has like, it would be like you could flip that around and say that Minato surpasses Naruto with the Flying Raijin. Like, what exactly do you mean by that? Well, you mean like Minato is faster than Naruto with the Flying Raijin, and he can use it in combination with other things tactically and do stuff that Naruto can't do. But does that mean that the Flying Raijin has more AP than the Rasen Shuriken? Well, it's kind of a silly question because they're two completely different things. Does it mean that Minato with his kunai is more or less deadly than the Rasen Shuriken. Well, if Naruto throws the Rasen Shuriken and Pain uses Shinra Tensei to blow it back, and Minato manages to get to Pain, put a seal on him, and then he gets blown back, but then he immediately like teleports using Flying Raijin to Pain's location, and then cuts his head off with a kunai. I don't know if he could do that for sure, but like if he does, right? The kunai itself doesn't necessarily have more destructive potential overall than the Rasen Shuriken, but because of the way it's used, it's still being used in a in a much more effective way. So I think, yes, Naruto has surpassed Minato in a specific regard by creating the Rasen Shuriken, by doing something that neither his father nor his teacher, nor either of his teachers was able to do, because Jiraiya couldn't do it either. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that he has surpassed his predecessor yet, and it certainly doesn't mean that like the instance of the jutsu that Naruto can use, the jutsu itself surpasses Minato overall as a person. Like, it's a very, very weird thing to say. Anyway, let me see. Welcome back, Slimy Orb. Slimy Orb says also strangle the guy you're talking about just gave the desire idea as a theory he had. It might not be accurate. Okay, I'll keep that in mind too. Hey there, Omni. Hope you are doing well. Welcome to our continued Kakuzu related endeavors. Slimy Orb says actually Naruto got 2 levels higher than Rasengan since he made the wind release Rasengan, then upgraded to the Rasen Shuriken. Right, he had the Futon Rasengan, which he used in combination with Yamato's water style to create that like the thing that initially got Kakuzu away from Kakashi, right? Is that what you're talking about? Does he ever actually use the Futon Rasengan later on? I'd be curious if that ever comes up again. Dr. Shango says, yeah, but narratively that guy might as well be the author narrating to us as the desire theory line up with the rest of the power. Okay, yeah, that's cool. I'll keep that in mind. I don't have enough knowledge of the series yet to be able to comment on that, but I'll definitely keep it in mind. I haven't even gotten to the point where Luffy is in gear mode or whatever you call that. Like, he doesn't have a gear yet. The term hockey hasn't come up yet, so I think I have a long ways to go before I can comment on any of that stuff.
It's a jutsu that he wasn't able to. No. This is another Ratatouille situation. If we're being honest, what that means is Minato couldn't infuse an element with Minato. That's all that means.
So, this is the time to...
Okay, I have to say it's very... On the one hand, I sympathize with Swag for talking over Noodles because Noodles has been interrupting him like all the time, but also like going like it's pretty cringe. Like you can do better than that. Omni says only here for a short while. Be a bit busy tomorrow, and it's already 1 a.m. Oh yeah, don't let me keep you up, dude. The VOD will be up if you want to listen back to things. It's just good to see you. I hope you have a great night. Whatever, whenever you need to head out. Dr. Strangle says, yeah, me and Slimy are talking about chapter 1000 plus. Oh, okay, yeah. So it'll take me a little while to catch up.
This is so ass.
Oh, so ass, but it's like a direct narrative point that Kakashi and Naruto restate multiple times. Like, just
yeah, but you know, like Noodles, come on.
So I just want to put a pin in that. Like, Noodles apparently is willing to put what's the term for it? Like, put weight on or acknowledge the validity of a narrative point if it's brought up by characters multiple times. So it's not like he's allergic to using narrative arguments or something. So let's just keep that in mind going forward and see if that comes back around.
Come on, you know that what everybody is talking about there is that Naruto was able to combine an element with the Rasengan, which Minato wasn't able to do.
Yeah, but
I'll just say also, like, you know, Noodles is under, as far as I know, is under no obligation to debate anybody. If you're going to take a debate with somebody and within an hour you're already going to be like so frustrated that you're mocking their voice, like, I don't know how to interpret this. I guess like one way to interpret it is he actively likes bullying people like this and being shitty in terms of how he talks to other people. Like he enjoys it. Or the other option that I can think of is he's just getting frustrated and venting. But either way, like, neither of those are like happy outcomes to me. Like, he should know at this point what he's signing himself up for something like this. So, like, what is the point of doing it if it's just going to be frustrating and result in you interacting with another person like this? Like, I don't get it. I don't empathize with this at all. Omni says, I agree with Dr. Strangle. Would be a weird thing to have an Einstein stand in and say if it isn't at least somewhat true. I'm still sticking to my Foxy Lightbeam thing for now, but I will keep that in mind. If Einstein himself walks off the page and tells me to like wisen up, I'll keep that in mind. Slimy says, I wonder if Naruto would have been able to make a Rasengan with one hand after the training, or if he still needed the clone. That's a good point, too. It is worth noting also that Naruto, uses the clones to do so. But in The World Within the Spiral, the Minato one-shot, when he comes up with the Rasengan, there's a nice parallel to... Sorry, I skipped right past it, didn't I? There's a nice parallel to, Naruto learning how to use the Rasengan with Jiraiya, right? Where Naruto only has one whirl in his head, and Minato has two whirls, and he's able to create the Rasengan without the clone, right? So in a way, you could say that like Minato's aptitude for jutsu surpassed Naruto because when he was around, I use the term vaguely, around Naruto's age-ish, he was probably a bit older, he was able to create the Rasengan himself by observing a Biju bomb and then working with Jiraiya and then just like having the epitome. When Naruto learned it, he learned it from Jiraiya after it had already been invented by Minato. And yes, it was still an ingenious thing, but then developing, like, he needed to use his clone as opposed to Minato just doing it on his own. And then, like, he had an extra few thousand hours of training as a result of the clone jutsu, which was, I think, at least partially empowered by his access to Kurama's chakra. I don't think it was just fucking his Uzumaki stamina, right? So if we had swapped those two characters out, like if Minato had the clone jutsu and he also and could use like the time training hack thing, and he also had Naruto's chakra reserves via Kurama or something comparable, I think he would have wound up creating an even better Rasen Shuriken that, or something equivalent to that, that didn't require him to use a clone. Now, Naruto eventually figures out how to do it without a clone, I believe, by the end of the series, right? But yeah, you could look at this as Minato having more latent genius for jutsu creation than Naruto does, potentially. I wonder if Naruto would have been able to make... Oh, yeah, okay. Omni says it's possible and likely we will learn more about the Devil Fruits once we learn more about the past, though. You're talking about the origin of Devil Fruits, John, not the slow photon thing. Okay, yeah. Sorry, I'm incredibly fixated on that one thing. So sorry if I missed the point. Dr. Stangle said Oda is secretly an anti-relativity guy, and he is going to make his Einstein standard wrong about everything just to slander the original. Honestly, wouldn't surprise me. But I think he would do that less as like intentional slander, but more as a joke, because he's kind of a goofball in the SBS, right? So.
But he's also talking about strength. He says you have a jutsu that it surpassed the fourth Hokage.
Definitely needed Kurama for that training, says Omni. Otherwise, why would Yamato be there as a safety guard? Yeah, 100%. Well, I guess I'm not clear to what extent he was able to use Kurama's chakra for his clone generation, because also Yamato was... Like, the whole theme of that arc, right? Well, one of the themes of that arc is that Naruto doesn't want to rely on Kurama's power, and also Yamato is suppressing Kurama's power, so I don't know how much of Naruto's chakra, like, of his own Naruto tinged chakra, he was using for his clones versus, like, borrowing Kurama, so to speak. Excuse me. Slimy Orb says Naruto gets a one-handed Rasengan right after Obito becomes a Jinchuriki. Yeah, I remember him using, like a one-handed Rasen Shuriken, lava-infused Rasen Shuriken or whatever, to cut down the God Tree as well, right? So.
No, all that means is...
So Minato got surpassed.
Yeah, I disagree that he got surpassed overall. I think that Naruto surpassed his jutsu. But again, it's like... Naruto has a jutsu creation feat that surpassed Minato's jutsu creation feat. That doesn't mean Minato overall as a character was surpassed. So.
In the sense...
Orb says, I think Yamato was there to be stopping the clones going on a rampage, not letting Naruto use Kurama's chakra to make the clones. That makes sense. Yeah, that's fair.
That Naruto was able to create a jutsu that Minato wasn't able to. Minato was not surpassed by Naruto because after Naruto whips out the Rasen Shuriken, Kakashi thinks back to the comparison and here, one sec. Let me actually get the chapter.
Okay, they say this...
Shout out to Swag for actually, like, being willing to get the evidence and all that. That's always a good thing to see.
Multiple times, by the way, during this arc. This, like, the entire narrative purpose of Naruto learning the Rasen Shuriken is to learn a jutsu that has quite literally surpassed the fourth Hokage. He says, you said I'm the only shinobi who will surpass the fourth Hokage, and you meant what you said. And then the second page, after Naruto hits him with the Rasen Shuriken, he says, Naruto has become truly strong. Jutsu that...
Yeah.
Or beyond even the fourth Hokage are well within his command. So
Yeah, okay, so jutsu, well, one jutsu specifically, actually two, I think, the clone jutsu and the Rasen Shuriken, and then maybe if you like were a little bit loose and called using Kurama, like synergizing with Kurama or using Kurama's chakra as a jutsu, then yeah, like Naruto has abilities that pound for pound are better than some of Minato's abilities, but that doesn't mean that like the ability itself is better than an entire person, right? Like I'm kind of belaboring the point, but yeah. Um Omni says, if it isn't fully about Naruto not utilizing Kurama, why would he have Kurama eyes when confronting Kakuzu? That's an interesting point. My interpretation there is that like Naruto still doesn't have like 1,000% control over Kurama, especially when he gets like angry or worked up or whatever. A little bit of Kurama's chakra will leak through a little bit, but I think that like the fact that he is only showing the slit pupils and not showing any of the other signs of the transformation, like the fangs and the whiskers and stuff like that, indicates that he is suppressing whatever influence that Kurama would normally have and keeping it to a bare minimum. That's how I kind of look at that scene. Hey, Cloud Axel, hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining us. Cloud Axel says, every piece of science is based on the science before it. I'm skeptical of of generalizations like that, but you're probably right. I mean, like I view scientific progress as like a long relay race or whatever of like passing the torch. You know, every I think largely speaking, I'm being too skeptical. Sorry, like largely speaking, I think every scientific achievement is, as you say, like based on prior achievements and what's the term for it? Not an innovation. In iteration of a previous thing. So yeah.
I think this is
Remind me to tell you the story of like how a bag of Skittles changed my life at 2 a.m. in a tiny town in northern New England.
establishes that Naruto is hitting Kakuzu with an attack that is completely beyond Minato's arsenal. This is not something that Minato's going to be able to do. Like, the fact is, this is a...
So he can't do that one particular jutsu, but that doesn't mean that Minato couldn't beat Kakuzu, and that doesn't mean that Minato couldn't beat even stronger people than Kakuzu. It's just that he doesn't have that particular jutsu, and like pound for pound, that jutsu might have more AP than any of his individual jutsu do, but still, like, Minato doesn't necessarily need higher AP than Naruto to kill Kakuzu, right? If his base Rasengan could potentially kill Kakuzu, with Diamond Armor off, then he could, like, it's... If we were to accept that a Paper Bomb could damage Kakuzu, and Minato could, like, use his Flying Raijin to plant paper bombs on Kakuzu when Diamond Morph is down, then he could potentially blow off Kakuzu's limbs with this extremely basic mass-produced tool that is in a completely different league in terms of being vastly inferior to the Rasen Shuriken, right? So I think the point that Noodles is trying to make here is that, like, Naruto would not have been able to defeat Kakuzu without the Rasen Shuriken, and therefore Minato wouldn't be able to do it either. But even though Minato doesn't have anything that hits pound for pound as hard as the Rasen Shuriken, he has a whole bunch of other shit that he can do, and he could still win. So I get the angle that Noodles is approaching this from. I just think it's misguided, to say the least. Let's see. Einstein created general relativity as a stepping stone for quantum physics. Did he intend to do that, or was it sort of a happy byproduct? Omni says, fair enough. It's more so I doubt Kakashi would say his and Naruto's supply would be that massively different if Kurama isn't factored in. Naruto needed Kurama to summon Gamabunta the first time. That's true. But no characteristic of Kurama showed. That's true. I think that's interesting, because in that regard, he seems to be like directly, like just taking. Yeah, like Kurama, like basically just gave him the chakra, right? Didn't he say something like, "Hey, you're living in my body. You might as well pay rent," or something? Or was that during the Neji fight? Because then during the Neji fight, when he transforms, you do see like his, I think his like his fingers get longer, and then you see like he's got the claws and stuff like that. So he like temporarily goes into like pseudo QB-ish mode. You know what I mean? Strangle says, "Well, trivially, people who accomplish things alone don't get the credit." That's true. Well, I mean. I would hope it's not true, but honestly, a lot of the times, yeah, credit is stolen or not properly attributed, as we've seen. Omnibomni says, so it isn't relying on Kurama in the same way as he did in the Tenshinhan Bridge. It's the transformation that Naruto doesn't want to rely on as it hurts others, not necessarily the supply. Yeah, that could be. Because, I mean, at any rate, I think the Minato designed the seal on his stomach to have a little bit of a gap in it so that a little bit of chakra would always be leaking out so that Naruto would eventually learn to use that. So it could be that that is what Naruto's getting when he's fighting Kakuzu. That's another potential thing. Shinigami says, how would Saria react if she learned I am using Zelda dresses as inspiration? I think she'd probably be okay with that. I think you should ask her next time she shows up.
A Durang attack that's actually attacking Kakuzu's chakra network. It bypasses the one attribute that Kakuzu is best at, which is durability. So
I think that's a downplay of Kakuzu. I think it's a misrepresentation of Kakuzu. When Kakuzu uses Diamond Morph, which is one of his jutsu, that particular ability affords him strong durability against physical attacks. But to say that that's his best attribute, I don't think so. Like, he's not called the stone wall or the tank or, the sterling defense. Like look at characters like Gaara, where they have their defensive capabilities called out as being like the ultimate shield or whatever, right? Kakuzu's strongest asset is his immortality, which is coupled with his access to all the different nature transformations. I would say his strongest asset is Jungu by far. Like, yeah, Diamond Morph has a lot of utility. It can be used offensively and defensively, but it's just one technique, and it's only one transformation, and it's, unless he has access to Earth Style himself normally, then it's something that that's part of his heart, right? Like, I think Noodles in the past has argued that the reason why we don't see him use Diamond Morph after Kakashi attacks him the first time is specifically because he quote-unquote loses his Earth Heart. Now, I disagree with that, but if we go with Noodles' perspective there, then, like, which is more useful to Kakuzu overall? One particular heart, which gives him a defensive jutsu, or the overall, like, Hijutsu that gives him access to multiple hearts, including that jutsu, that could then potentially replace that heart if it's lost? Obviously, Jiangu is a much stronger asset, right? The pseudo-immortality combined with the ability to replenish hearts, combined with the ability to use the threads, to morph into the different configurations. Jiangu is, like, leaps and bounds better than Diamond Morph itself, which is probably why we see, like, as the fight, going into narrative for a second, as the fight increases in terms of its it gets more and more intense towards the end, we see Kakuzu not using Diamond Morph over and over again. We don't see him, like, having that be the thing. Like we never get this thing where it's like, ha ha ha, Naruto, all your friends failed to attack me and failed to hurt me. Now what are you going to do? You don't have any attack that can possibly get through this, do you? And he's like, ah, shit. Well, it just so happens that I came up with a Dura Neg attack. I was working this entire chapter or whatever or saga arc, whatever, to specifically develop an attack that goes through durability. Like, none of that happens, right? Kakuzu loses his if you believe he lost his Earth Heart, he loses that in the beginning of the fight before Naruto shows up. And then it's Kakuzu in Jiangu form, like, fighting against the Rasen Shuriken. The Rasen Shuriken doesn't have to negate Kakuzu's durability because he doesn't have access to Diamond Morph, or at least chooses not to use it at the moment where he clashes with the supposedly Duraneg ability. So I don't think this is a correct reading of the sequence at all. Oh, Tenchi Brid's autocorrect changed to Tenchi Nun from Dragon Ball. I was going to ask, but I thought maybe I had just misremembered that. Slimy Orb says there's a term for the discoverer not getting their name on the discovery. It's named after the second person who talked about it or something like that. I'd be curious to know what that is. Telling the Kakuzu Glazer that he's downplaying Kakuzu. I think that's the irony of it. Yeah, I think that sometimes, like in his debate with Apollo last year, he said, like, Kakuzu is not a speedster, so he's not going to be able to dodge fucking Yugito's Biju bombs. And it's like, okay, I think the reason why he's making that argument is because he wants to argue that Kakuzu can tank a Biju bomb, and then that helps his scaling for durability or whatever, which is fine. But at the same time, he basically starts off the debate by putting a speed cap on Kakuzu. He basically starts off by saying Kakuzu isn't going to get faster than this. He's not fast enough to dodge Yukito's Biju bomb. It's like, why would you hamstring yourself like that? Like, I guess points for being honest, but also I was not convinced that Kakuzu, like, categorically could not dodge a Biju bomb, and now he starts off the debate by saying the character that I'm arguing for isn't fast, so he's more likely to tank this attack, right? It's like, because he's banking on winning on the durability point, he's willing to sacrifice Kakuzu's potential speed, if that makes sense, right? You think you're gonna rest a little for drawing? Yeah, go for it. I hope that you get some good sleep and all that. I don't want to keep you up too late and all that. So yeah, good luck with everything. You always have trouble drawing a woman's chest. I have no artistic skills whatsoever in the realm of drawing, so I'm not going to judge you for sure, but I hope you can figure it out. Let's see. There aren't circles, they're more like balloons. Oh, I see, I gotcha. Hi there, One Smart. Hi, Kuribo. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining us tonight. It's going pretty well. We are making some progress. I'm ranting and rambling a lot, but we're getting there. How are you doing? How have you been?
So if you are going out of your way to use an attack that is straight Dura-negging Kakuzu, yeah, that's the hard counter to Kakuzu. And this is explicitly not within Minato's arsenal, and this is
It's called Stigler's Law, and Mark Twain basically talked about it first. Oh, cool.
explicitly beyond Minato. So this is not something Minato can just fucking do.
Honestly, you know what I wonder? Okay, I don't think this actually checks out, now that I'm thinking about it, but the thing is... How can I explain this? The way that this argument seems to me like it's going down is Kakuzu is like... Noodles is like, Kakuzu has awesome durability, and so it would work against other characters like Minato. Then his opponent can come forward and say, but he was defeated by somebody who's weaker than Minato. Then Noodles can respond by saying, oh yeah, well that's just an exception, because this particular attack has durability negation, Duraneg, and as a result, that anti-feat that you want to use doesn't count unless your character has some similar sort of thing. The thing is, though, when Noodles argues in favor of Kakuzu's durability, he usually references Diamond Morph. I don't think he really talks that much about Kakuzu's base durability, except for blocking Yugito's Paw Strike, but he doesn't really scale that Paw Strike anywhere. Like, he says that it hurt KCM Naruto, maybe, but then he doesn't really scale KCM Naruto's durability anywhere. So it's like, that's kind of a dead end there. So, what's funny about the Rasen Shuriken damaging Kakuzu is that it does so when he doesn't have Diamond Morph active. And I think that comes with this assumption that because we've talked about Kakuzu having high durability before, that it just negated his durability. But that's not really true, is it? It impacts with his Jangu, like, fleshy threads. It impacts with his back, right? So, well, I don't know if it doesn't directly hit the threads. It hits him in his back, right? So it touches his flesh, and his flesh isn't hard at the time. Pause. And so it winds up just sort of like going inside his body, pause, and then exploding inside of him, etc. And so I wonder if Kakuzu had Diamond Morph on, if we characterize the Rasen Shuriken as a physical attack, because basically what it is it's a bunch of teeny tiny little swords, and Kakuzu is good at defending against things like, I don't know, explosions and swords and knives and shit when he has Diamond Morph on. Maybe Diamond Morph is actually a better counter to the Rasen Shuriken than Noodles is giving it credit for, right? Because if we take Kakuzu's, statement that physical attacks are virtually useless against him, or as Noodles likes to say, they are useless against him, and we look at the Rasengan as a physical attack, we look at the Rasen Shuriken, it has a nature transformation to it, but it's described as like a bunch of little swords that like attack the cells. There's this weird narrative around it that it attacks the cells directly, but that's not really an accurate description either, because that doesn't really, like, it doesn't like somehow magically go past your skin and then like teleport inside your cell and then explode. What it does is it goes through the what do you call it? The cell, the phospholipid bilayer or whatever. It goes through like the border of the cell. It penetrates, it punctures through it, and then once it's in the cell, it cuts the connection between the Keirakuke and the cell. So it hurts, right? Just like the basic Rasengan hurts. But the thing that makes it so effective isn't just that it is causing internal physical damage. It's that the direct cell attack thing is that it's slicing the chakra network's connection to the cell so that people can't mold chakra anymore. It's like vaguely similar to somebody in Avatar: The Last Airbender like removing bending from somebody. I think Kakuzu could have potentially like gone and gotten medical treatment and recovered from that attack, and then just not ever been able to use jutsu again. Because the reason why, and there's that whole part about how like Tsunade tells Kakashi, don't let Naruto use this jutsu anymore because he's already losing sensation in his hand. Like, his hand is already taking damage. I can already see the jutsu's effects starting to affect the chakra network in his hand. If he keeps using this, he won't be able to use jutsu anymore. So what if Kakuzu could have actually blocked the Rasen Shuriken with his Diamond Morph? That would actually be a better feat for Kakuzu's Diamond Morph, because he's hardening his skin that would resist against, like, the little swords, but it would then take away the scaling around, like, Kakuzu being so durable and base that you need a Duraneg attack to defeat him, which I don't think you do anyway. I think you just need to, like, catch him when his Diamond Morph is off, which should be doable for somebody like Minato, who can just put, like imagine Minato just throws a shitload of kunai at him. Kakuzu in character, what's he going to do? He's going to probably wall up, like he's done countless times before. He uses Diamond Morph. Okay, cool. So now there's all these little kunai around. Minato teleports to him, puts a seal directly on him. Okay, Kakuzu blasts him back. Oh no, Minato got burned. Minato got hurt. Okay, cool. Once that's over, Diamond Morph's down. Minato just, like, teleports to him and just stabs him, you know? Like, obviously I'm oversimplifying things. One sec. My partner texted me. Okay, yeah. Anyway, let me check up on chat. So it's making the balloon's shape seamlessly part of on the chest. I'm not sure what you're referring to. I'm sorry. Dr. Stangle says there's this 19th century British aristocrat who was a I think I read that as who was a slut. This slutty British aristocrat independently discovered a shit ton of advanced calculus and scientific principles, where instead of having the second law of thermodynamics, we calling it blah de blah's 20th law. Oh, interesting. Okay. That, I see what you mean. And so, yeah, well, Newton has, like, a series of laws that are attributed to him, right? So I guess that does happen sometime, but it's kind of unfortunate if not, if that winds up not being the case. One Smart says, doing great, just saw the Avatar 7 Havens teaser. Oh shit, that's awesome. I can't wait for that to come out. I need to see the movie too. Let's see, the teaser was so cool. I want to know what's causing the storms. Oh, don't spoil anything. I haven't seen it yet. Slimy Orb says it attacks the chakra net. Oh, hi puppy. It attacks the chakra network inside the cells. Yeah, exactly. They had Korra looking evil. Oh, intriguing. Very intriguing. The logic behind the Duraneg might be the fact that small attacks at that level are more precise damage than just blunt force. It targets a whole limb, precision application of force type shit. Yeah, that's a very good point. It could just be that, like, you know, if you punch somebody, especially if they're, like, walled up, if they have chakra flowing through them, and if you believe that that increases their base defense, then it's like, okay, blunt force trauma, push somebody back. That's going to be different than if you, like we talked about this before, right? If you take a needle and you just gently, slowly push a needle into somebody's skin with a fraction of the force, because of the way that force is being distributed or focused or whatever the proper term for it is, you could still, or it's like the amount of force per area might be higher, despite the fact that you as a person are applying less force overall, and so it can get through. Let's see. You make it too easy with all these pauses. I can't help myself. I'm never going to grow out of that. Omnibunny says you're going to be going, yeah, no worries, dude. Have a great night. Thanks for hanging out with us. Slimy Europe says potentially Diamond Morph also takes a lot of chakra, and Minato has a decent amount of it, so he can stall enough for Kakuzu to run out if he, for some reason, wanted to take his time. Yeah, that's a good point, too. I think something that gets overlooked is that Kakuzu is supposed to be this shrewd, intelligent, resourceful fighter. In my opinion, that would mean that he would probably be judicious about his use of chakra, and he wouldn't want to go spamming that shit all the time. But yeah, that's something that wouldn't, I'm sure Noodles wouldn't accept that in a debate, right? Yeah, no worries about the typing. I'm a terrible texter. Let me just, I was going to look at what I texted my partner. I was trying to tell her that we have Thai food that I left for her in the microwave, because if I leave it out, the cat's going to get it. So I said, yes, Thai food. Ib Contaber. Lower shelf in Mike 40 Frave. Also iced tea in fridge 2Js. Oh, no, I said iced tea in fridge, but then I said food for Yoi instead of you. Like, I'm surprised that that I managed to get through school at all with that text. Anyway.
No, it's only beyond Minato in the sense that Naruto is able to take Minato's jutsu and improve upon it. This is even
exactly.
been said somewhere.
Hold on, why does he call him strong and that he surpassed him then, and that he surpassed Kakashi as well? Like, what's he mean when he says surpassing and he's strong? What's he talking?
So here's the thing. Technically speaking, Swag doesn't have to answer that, because if Noodles was the one who put forward the statement, so Swag can answer that if he wants to be charitable, I guess. But he would also be within his rights to say, okay, Noodles, you give me the scan, and then we'll look at it together. And really, this is why I get frustrated with debates sometimes. It's like, I think if we we're just two people having a conversation, that would be a totally fine question to ask. Within a competitive environment like this, though, you have to be careful because people will take advantage of that. So really what Swag could have done is been like, okay, if we're debating, then you need to phrase that as a positive claim or an objection, and excuse me, and then make your positive claim so I can interrogate it. Asking rhetorical questions can sometimes be a trap. So yeah. Imagine if you said, "Hey, big guy." I think I'm missing a reference there. Sorry. Slimy Orb says, also according to B, Minato likes to attack with body flicker to start off, so Kakuzu might not have time to react. Yeah, exactly.
He said will surpass. He doesn't say he surpassed him here.
So, like, I personally think that the Rasengan would be enough to kill Kakuzu. Like, if Minato gets behind him and just, like, Rasengans him in the back of his neck, I think he'd blow out his neck, and that would take out one of Kakuzu's hearts. And he could probably just keep doing that. But that's my opinion. Like, in order to prove that in a debate, I would obviously need to scale the AP of the Rasengan. And I think... if I'm being honest, like, you could try to scale it to Kurama's Biju Bomb, which I think makes sense, but all we really know is that however dense and heavy the Biju Bomb is, the Rasengan is stable and powerful enough to push it back. That doesn't mean that it has equivalent AP to, like, the Biju Bomb exploding when he clashes with Kurama. It's strong enough to bust through rocks. And that's all I know, right? So,
I guess it's time to pass the torch. He surpassed me. Naruto's
Kakashi says that Kakashi says that Naruto surpassed him. Yeah. Kakashi doesn't say
Naruto surpassed Minato as well. He literally, like, you see that bottom panel. He said you're the only shinobi who could surpass the fourth Hokage.
Yeah. So this is a very strange. Oh, did I say big guy? I'm sorry. I must have just, like, totally missed it. Sometimes my brain doesn't keep track of everything. Sorry about that. But yeah, like, this is such a weird thing for Noodles to say. It's like, it's very clear that what Jiraiya is saying is that Naruto, you right now have surpassed... Sorry. Kakashi is saying, you have surpassed me. And also, in the future, you are the only one who can surpass the fourth Hokage. And Noodles is looking at that, and I think he thinks that what Kakashi is saying is that Naruto has already surpassed them both. But it's like, I'm trying to be nice, but I mean, like, he should be able to figure that out. That shouldn't require, that's not the sort of thing that should generate a whole lot of confusion.
Yeah. That means Kakashi told him he believes he's going to surpass the fourth Hokage. I know you remember that during.
Yeah, okay, gonna surpass. That's important. So he knows what it says. There's something just not clicking.
Training arc. And then there's also
he tells him that he's going to surpass the fourth Hokage. He tells him that he's
sorry for the background noise. I'm getting a snack.
And then, like, 200 chapters down the line, when Naruto, after gaining like 80 new abilities, does something else against a bunch of opponents who are way stronger than Kakuzu, Kakashi compares him to Minato. Again,
he doesn't know.
So you think that Naruto was completely stagnant? He's like, Sensei, and there's a direct comparison drawn between the two of them. Naruto's not looming in
a direct comparison drawn.
Kakashi calls Naruto Sensei, right? You know, he's
okay.
Like,
so what is calling him Sensei entail?
Comparing him to Minato, like, this isn't hard.
What is he comparing though? Like, what attribute?
Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever attribute is being what attribute do you think is being compared here when he's talking about?
Yeah, exactly. So, like, I think that's a leading question, and that's something that you need to kind of keep an eye out for. Sorry, my cat's making noise in the background too. Everybody's acting up tonight. He sounds like he's asking Swag basically, like, that question because he has in mind that there is one particular attribute, and if he can identify a particular attribute that helps him advance his argument, but it doesn't. This might actually be a detriment to his argument because Swag could just argue that it's a more esoteric, No, I'm sorry. Oh, okay, yeah, I think I figured it out. So I think what Noodles is trying to do is he's trying to say that, like, the overcoming aspect refers specifically to the Rasen Shuriken. If he can reduce it or identify it as being that one singular thing, then that helps his perspective. And so he's trying to set up almost a trap in this leading question to get Swag to answer and quote unquote admit it, but that's I think at the expense of the context of the scene.
I don't think there's a comparison being made, so I'm asking you.
No, I don't know. Naruto's as strong as Minato. He's catching up to Minato. Whatever.
Okay, so does it say that? Or are you just pulling that as headcanon? Because
well, that's a false dichotomy, right? Like, it doesn't have to be headcanon. It could be a conclusion that he's coming to through narrative analysis, even if it's not like a specific quote, right?
As far as I'm concerned, he can just visually mistake his like cape and shit as the fourth Hokage and think that he's literally seeing Minato, but he's just mistaken because it looks like Minato.
This is what I'm talking about, bro. This is so ass.
This is so.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, that's the thing. Noodles gets extremely critical of other people for using the "it could be this, it could be that" approach, which he calls, like, essentially he frames it as being toxic skepticism. But that, he's just sort of putting that out there without actually evaluating it himself. And it's Kakashi, neither Kakashi nor anybody else is mistaking Naruto for Minato. They don't think Naruto is literally Minato, right? They're drawing a visual comparison between him and Minato as he gets closer to assuming his legacy. They don't think it's literally him.
I'm getting fucked in the ass by Noodles.
Yeah, I'm getting.
Okay, so and then this happens.
Well, bro, this is so ass.
This is so ass. I'm getting fucked in the ass by Noodles.
Yeah, I'm getting
fucking ass is going me right now. He's really clapping my cheeks, and I don't have any fucking counter argument, so I'm just gonna appeal to the chat.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, so not only is that extremely rude and crude, not only is that a straw man, bringing in chat, like, I don't think Swag was really appealing to the chat either, but also there's implied sexual assault there, right? We can assume that Swag would not consent to that particular arrangement, so real fucking classy operation there. I think that's really uncalled for, in addition to just being really fucking gross. Can we not do better as a community? Are we really, like, is this really how, like, oh yeah, who introduced me to this phrase recently? The bar is in hell, right? Like, is this how low the fucking bar is, where we're, like, talking about people essaying each other over a fucking Naruto debate? Like, come on, grow the fuck up.
Yeah, I did get you. Surpassed the fourth Hokage, buddy. So Minato can't do that in Naruto.
No, that's not true. Like I said, here, let me find the statement. Let me find the statement about the Boston freaking being something.
Nothing's being compared.
So, what do you think the point was of Kakashi calling Naruto master?
You said what?
What do you think the point was of Kakashi calling Naruto master? You think it was just?
I think he visually mistaked him as Minato because he's wearing a cape.
Yeah, why? What do you think? What do you think?
I will say, like, I do prefer if the way that Swag is phrasing his question, because it seems like, okay, like, Swag, it feels to me like he's already made his point and he's done it effectively, but he's still trying to continue to try to have a productive dialogue with Noodles in some capacity, so he's inviting Noodles to explore the topic more. I think it's a very subtle distinction, but there is a significant difference between the way that Noodles framed his question, which felt like it was leading towards a trap, and the way that Swag is asking his question, being like, okay, well, you seem to dislike my overall perspective here, so what's your alternative? Like, where else can we go with this, right? So that's important. It's not like asking questions in a debate is bad or anything. In theory, you should be able to ask questions freely and have, like, a free and fair exchange back and forth, but the way that they're phrased and implemented is very important. It's fine if Noodles likes men. We know how much he likes Kakuzu hard. That's a good point. Yeah, exactly. I will say, a whole bunch of Naruto content creators came out as bi recently, or at least are playing with the concept, so, you know, I'm happy to be part of that wave. Or really, I am happy to be at the spearhead of that wave, since I was the one who did it first, and I did it best, and so I expect, you know, I walked so everybody else could run into the glorious blue and purple light of Naruto bisexuality. Obviously, I'm joking, but yeah, I mean, like, obviously, I'm not trying to be homophobic at all. It would be very bizarre of me. I don't object to gay sex, and I don't object to butt sex. What I object is the depiction of the presumably non-consensual arrangement between these two individuals. Let me just make that very clear.
Probably had, like, a flashback.
No, Noodles. This is. I wasn't just appealing to the chat. I was actually having, like,
No, you
This
do
is
this
just
every
I'm
time.
gonna
Every
walk
time
you
we
through
debate,
this. I'm
you
gonna
now, like,
have
bring up
you
an argument and a
understand this.
possible interpretation
You're
that
gonna
you have,
no,
like,
no, 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 no.
disagreement
We're gonna
with,
walk
but
through
you
this
don't actually
together
have, like, an
while the
argument against it,
chat
and you start
listens
appealing
to
to the chat.
understand. Okay, why do you think Kishimoto, the author, had Kakashi mistake Naruto for Minato? Think really hard.
I just told you multiple times why I thought he did it, and I think it's because
What's the
Kakashi has been
narrative
saved by
purpose?
Minato in the past. Naruto saved him here, and he visually could have thought that it was Minato for a second. Like,
So
he literally
what's the
confused
narrative
that it's
implication
Minato.
of something like this?
I mean, like, I don't. I think maybe the education system of America just failed. Just failed our boy Noodles here because, like, is this? Let me just ask honestly, without judgment. Is this confusing to anybody else who's listening to this? Like, has anybody read the series of Naruto and gotten to the point where we see, like, the silhouette of Minato superimposed over Naruto's back, and then you think that Minato actually literally like showed up there and Kakashi literally thought it was actually Minato? Or does everybody basically pretty much understand that it's a metaphor for Naruto getting closer to Minato overall? Like, his stature, his stance, what he represents is getting closer to Minato. The reason why Kakashi quote-unquote mistakes him for Minato is because he's looking more like him, but he doesn't think it's literally him, right? Like, I feel like I shouldn't have to explain this, but that might be me coming from a position of privilege because there's no way for me to say this without sounding douchey, but, like, I had the benefit of having, like, English classes where we talked about metaphor, we talked about, like, literary tropes, we talked about stuff like this, and I was trained to be able to spot these things. If I hadn't had that experience, I might be confused by this. So that's why I said, like, genuinely, no judgment. If you are confused by this, I am not looking down on you in any way. I think that this is one of those things where it's like, yeah, to use a personal example, when I first saw the movie, I talked about this before, but I first saw the movie Annihilation, I thought it was just kind of like a mediocre movie about some aliens or whatever, and it was, like, fine. But then I saw Folding Ideas analysis of it and realized that it's not actually about aliens at all. I mean, it kind of is, but it's also very, very much not. The whole point of that story has so much more to do with things of a very, very personal nature, and the alien is there, but it's also not the point. And that video changed the way that I looked at media. That I look at media ever since then. If I hadn't have seen that, I probably would not have, like, I would be missing a big piece of the way that I analyze media. It is a privilege, so I don't want to come down on Noodles too hard for failing to get this if he just hasn't had the same experience that I have. But also, if I'm being a little less fair, like, it's a fucking manga for teenagers. Like, this shouldn't be that confusing, right? Like, am I being unfair? Shinigami says, I wish it was this confusing to me because I can't imagine being the idiot. It might be a little harsh, but yeah. Slimy Europe says, I think it's a mix of silhouette just looking closer to Minato and capabilities being closer to Minato, but it isn't just Kakashi seeing wrong. Yeah. Even if it was a trick of the light and he was literally visually perceiving things incorrectly, that's only one layer to what's happening.
The narrative input. So you want me to go inside of Kishimoto's head and verify a mind-independent fact?
No, I just want you to tell me what your reading of the text is. A third grader would be.
You just asked me a second ago, what do you think Kishimoto is thinking when he's writing this? Okay, so what I would have to do in order to attain that level of information is I would have to exist in the same place at the same time Kishimoto is writing that page. And I would literally have to either be a mind reader or have some kind of telepathic ability to understand what I can tell you is there's not a single fucking attribute that's actually being compared there.
Appreciate
and all Kakashi's doing is visually mistaking
this
him for
debate certainly is not. This debate certainly. I deserve this 100. I deserve it.
This is
It's really hard to make out what the fuck was being said there, especially since Six was talking over it. But I think, yeah, funny enough, Ball Knower over here said the narrative implication is that their capes are similar looking, and that's what we're supposed to take away from it. Yeah. This is a really bizarre, really weird straw man that Noodles has used before. This idea that, like, you can never know what anybody is thinking ever, or at the very least, like, he said that in other contexts, but let me stick to this particular debate. You can never know what an author was trying to convey unless you can literally go inside their head and read their mind directly. And I think he's just maybe not familiar with the entire institution of literature and literary analysis, because I would like it, if I talk to him later, I would like to just ask him to go say that to an English teacher and just see what happens. Just listen to the response that he gets, right? Because it's so fucking bizarre to suggest that you can never understand the message that an author or that the creator of any form of art is trying to convey without mind reading them. That speaks to me as somebody who is very frustrated with their inability to connect with art, or who hasn't been given the tools to be able to connect with art. I will say this, when I listen to jazz, sometimes I'm like, wow, this kind of sounds like noise to me. I don't understand what all this stuff is going on. This is clearly just like improvisation, randomness, blah, 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 right? But I know that that's just because I don't understand jazz. Like, I haven't studied it. I don't know the chord progressions. I don't really know what the musicians are trying to convey because I don't have that language. If you put on like weird grindcore industrial noise slop, I will understand exactly what they're saying, even though it is objectively more noise than jazz, because I speak that language and I used to do noise music and like perform in punk bands and stuff like that, right? So I get that. So the thing is that, like, arguably every piece of literature and piece of art is a form of expression and also probably a form of communication. And it is true that you can never directly mind meld with another human being, but that being said, if you study art and you pay close attention both to what the artist says about their own art, and you also like understand the context in which the art is created, you can come to a very, very likely understanding of what the message and the intended message of the art is, right? There are certain tropes that are used throughout various forms of media. Also, if the artist comes out and specifically says, like, hey, what I was trying to accomplish with this scene is X, Y, or Z. The reason why, like, if you look at the art books and stuff like that, Kishimoto says, the reason why Naruto has this expression on his face is to indicate this. I was trying to say that he would do this in this scene, but then I didn't do a really good job and ran out of time, whatever. Right? Like, he explains in great detail what his process is. He explains what his ethics are, what his values are, what the overall point of the story is, what motivates him, what drives him. So, I guess if you're maladjusted, or you're just extremely cynical and bitter, you can look at all that and be like, yeah, well, he could be lying, so whatever, we can not know anything to be true. But then you could take that approach is essentially solipsistic. It's essentially just saying you can never know anything, and so we can yeah, we can never know anything. We can never know anything for sure, so we can never know anything at all. And it's like, no, that's extremely reductive. It's extremely like black and white thinking. You absolutely can, within the context of a work of art, how that art is created and who creates it, get to an extremely close understanding of what the intended message is. Obviously, it's entirely possible that the entire time Kishimoto was drawing his manga, he was actually trying really, really hard to tell us a story about, like, a turtle just walking across the beach for 700 chapters. And every time he sat down to try to draw a turtle, he wound up drawing a ninja instead. Right? No Ninja Turtle pun intended. That's just what came to mind, right? And like every time he, like, it's kind of like if you played Sekiro, like the sculptor, right? The sculptor, every time he goes to sculpt an image of the Buddha, he tries to he envisions an image of the Buddha that is serene and peaceful, but every single time he carves one that's an incarnation of wrath. He's just so possessed by anger that every single time, or like the simmering Shura wrath inside him, that every time he carves one of the sculptures, it always comes out the same. He's just failing to produce the art that he wants to. But also, there is a reason why that happens, and the fact that that happens tells you something about him as a character. So, really, it just seems like Noodles either was never given the proper tools to perform narrative analysis or discarded them because of some frustration or some lack of comprehension about how they should be implemented. But the preposterous suggestion that you can never understand the intended message of a work of art is really fucking bizarre to me. Anyway, Shinigami says, nah bro, I was having roasting matches in trivia night. Oh, okay, gotcha. The opposing team says, tries to look at your answers, and you said, while you're all cheating, is this how y'all act in relationships? Oh boy, damn, burn. Shinigami says, I think Noodles is the type to tell the teacher they're wrong. He did say that if Kishimoto came up to him and corrected him on his Kakuzu scaling, that Noodles would say, to Kishimoto that he was an R slur and slap him and say that like he was wrong and explain why, right? So just take that as you will. Shinigami says Kishimoto, after he meant to draw the turtle but instead created Naruto, what have I done? Oh yeah, just like the long drawn out no after learning about Padme. My fucking turtle dreams are shattered.
Intrinsically power scaling based. All I am saying is that Minato is still being used to hype up Naruto like 200 chapters after Kakuzu's defeat. And even though this isn't as deep into the war arc, you have him being directly compared to Minato later when he fights against A. You have the statement that Kurama makes later about how he's finally surpassed Minato and Kushina, etc.
Yeah, what's that in context to, though?
In Discord, I'll take a quick look, but I don't want to get too distracted by Discord. It's not even opening. Hooray. No joke, my Discord is just like not opening at all. What the fuck? Oh, it's in the tray. Hang on. Did you send me something? I don't see anything. Oh, is it in general? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh, I saw the other one too. Lower the IQ of the whole street. Nice burn.
I like how you leave out context. Why did Ninetales say that?
All I'm saying though, right, is like
What attribute did the Ninetales compare him to in that very statement you just stated, Swag?
Here, let me pull it up. I'll read it directly.
You want me to tell you? I can just tell it to you.
Yeah, go for it.
He compares it in his ability to like manipulate Ninetales chakra. He says he surpassed Kushina and Minato both, which fucking makes sense. It's not anything else.
That must be something different then, right? Like this is why it's very important to put these scans up on screen, because I don't know, like, I guess we could take a why don't we take a look? I feel bad because I want to make sure that we like get through the whole debate, but like also if we're just skimming things and not fact checking stuff, then we're, you know, probably better to go more slowly and get things right. So I think it's somewhere around here. Let me know if you if I accidentally skipped it. Would love to know where this is specifically. Okay, magnificent jutsu, sweet. Okay, so here we see 342. What Kakashi says is, such confidence and the wit to turn failure on its head and quickly plan his next move. Naruto has become strong, truly strong. Jutsu that were beyond even the fourth Hokage are well within his command. I guess it's time to pass the torch. He has surpassed me. Okay, so what Kakashi is saying is that, like, Naruto, which, granted, just because Kakashi is saying this doesn't mean it's, like, 100% true, right? Like, if Naruto and Kakashi fought, that doesn't necessarily mean that just because of this, Kakashi would lose to Naruto. If they were both bloodlusted, like, they were put under some kind of mind control spell, and they really just, like, went berserk, they didn't recognize each other, they thought each other were enemies, right? Take all the emotions out of it, and they just fought each other. I think there's an argument that Kakashi could just, like, Kamui Naruto's head off or something like that, right? Or that he could use a variety of different techniques and defeat Naruto. So, be careful about taking statements like this out of context for power scaling, because I think there's more happening here in the narrative than we would just get out of a power scaling thing. A purely power scaling perspective. It is possible that Naruto would wind up beating him, especially if he went into, like, Kurama mode. And if he landed the Rasen Shuriken, I think it would kill Kakashi, just to be clear. But Kakashi has a lot of, like, tricks up his sleeve. There are things that he could potentially do, including, say, using a Sharingan Genjutsu to potentially, like, get an opportunity to then use a Raikiri or something like that, right? Who knows? I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that he just automatically loses to Naruto because he says this. But notice also the things that Kakashi is saying. Confidence, wit, the tendency to turn failure on its head and plan his next move. Something about Kakashi is that he constantly mulls over his failures. The reason why he keeps going back to Obito's grave is because he is extremely self-critical and extremely consumed by regret over the fact that he failed Obito and Rin even all of those years later. So Naruto hasn't given up. He continues to believe in himself. He doesn't have that same level of self-doubt. He doesn't have that same level of getting, like, stuck in that quagmire. So that is one aspect in which Naruto has surpassed Kakashi. Naruto has also developed a technique that Kakashi couldn't pull off. He also has the ability to do, like, training with the Shadow Clones. Now, granted, Kakashi and Yamato both helped him with that, so it wasn't just on his own. But when you combine all of those different aspects together, his innovation and everything, then yes, then yes, he has surpassed Kakashi overall. But it doesn't come down to just one particular stat, or even just come down to like raw fighting ability. It's a more holistic overall surpassing in from Kakashi's perspective based on his own assessment of his own weaknesses as well. And then what it says is, you are always before him. Oh, he says, can you sense it? You are always before his eyes, inspiring him. You make him strong. You do know that, don't you, Sasuke? Right? So, it's important. Like, they don't seem to talk about this Sasuke thing, at least not yet. I don't see the silhouette thing that they're talking about. I know what they're talking about. I just don't remember exactly where it happens. So, yeah, I think it's very important to show scans. I understand that 6 was playing a game and all that, but, like, still think it's very important. Okay, so here we go, right? So, let's see. Jutsu template, SFX template. Oh, I see. It was the translators or the letters or whatever. Okay. So, yeah, here's the Futon Rasengan. Finally, it at least has a shape. Looks like he was using his clones. And then he so he clashes with Kakashi to see which one is better. And they clash, and then Kakashi slumps over, and it's like, okay, so now he has surpassed him. I don't think at all that Kakashi thinks that this is literally Minato. He's seeing, like, Minato's silhouette, which is, like, much larger, superimposed over Naruto. Naruto isn't even wearing a Haori. He's not wearing a cloak. Like, this is very clearly just, like, okay, Naruto is also not, like, standing inside Minato's silhouette. He's, like, hunched over into the side. It's not even, like, directly superimposed. So there's no way Kakashi is mistaking him for Minato. He's seeing, like, the shade or the specter or the phantom image of Naruto in terms of him starting to, like, really resemble him. But he's not like, oh shit, that's literally Minato. Like, this is so weird. And I got mad at Noodles and Swag in their previous debates, plural, for doing this shit. They're both so confident that they remember things, that they don't need to go look it up. They don't need to read the surrounding chapter. They don't need to see things in context. And then they're basically not even arguing about the series after a certain point. They're just arguing about their, like, personal recollections and fragmented interpretations and opinions on the series. It's like, just open the fucking book. Like, when I went and talked to Noodles in his Discord server 2 or 3 years ago now, it was a long time ago, that was basically the reason why I was there. That was basically the whole premise of my conversation with him, was like, hey, you and Swag kept doing this, and you kept getting stuck into these, like, quandaries or whatever you want to call them, and just, like, butting heads, and I feel like you could have easily resolved all of this by just picking up the fucking book and reading through it. And I chose the example of Jiraiya killing the 5 paths of pain, supposedly, because I thought that would be super easy and simple and non-controversial, right? You just read through 2 or 3 chapters, and you can literally just count how many paths Jiraiya kills, quote-unquote. He couldn't have killed 5 paths of pain, or for a variety of reasons, but basically because without even getting into that whole topic, right? It's like, even if I was wrong about that, and he did literally do that, that would be something that Noodles and I could have resolved by just reading a couple of chapters for 5 or 10 minutes. It turned into, like, a 4 or 5 hour long fucking argument because of this sort of thing, right? And it's just like, isn't this kind of a waste of everybody's goddamn time? Does anybody actually enjoy this? I don't think that Noodles enjoyed it. He didn't seem to be having fun with our conversation. He seems to be getting pissed at Swag. I don't think the Swag enjoyed it. I think maybe there was a certain schadenfreude that 6 got out of, like, putting Swag through the fucking ringer again. And I think people in chat enjoyed it, but it's like, is it necessary? Can we do better than this, you know? I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm asking too much. Slimy Orb says they're talking about Naruto deflecting the tailed beast bombs and Kakashi thinking it was Minato. Would you happen to remember what chapter that is? I'd be happy to look at that too, but I don't remember off the top of my head. It has to be something like 570-ish? Okay. So yeah, it would be around here. But yeah, this is where... Oh, it was pretty close. It was pretty close, actually. Okay, are you talking about this one? Okay, so now he does actually have the cloak. Okay, this is the... He just deflected those, right? 571. Thank you, yeah. Wait, did I miss it? Did I just like scroll too fast? Let me go back and check. Okay. So here he has the cloak on. Naruto, don't tell me you. Fool, if you do that, you die. Yes, but... This is bad. I'll blast him like Kamui. Open the 8th gate. Yeah. I know. Deflects it. Oh, oh, I see. Right over here. Yeah. Okay, so that's one thing, right? This makes sense, right? So, Naruto has like undergone a new transformation. He's gotten a cloak that he didn't have on before, and he's now just done this feat, which I'm sure Kakashi didn't think he was capable of, because like he was literally like on the ropes before he, or not literally, figuratively on the ropes. He was like very fatigued, and he was like potentially gonna die before he pulled out this new transformation with Kurama, right? So it makes sense that this would kind of shock him. Also, Guy seems to be taken aback by how fast the response is, and he has the cloak, and he looks more like Minato from behind with all that. So yeah, this makes sense. That would make sense that Kakashi would be a little bit more surprised by that. But also, he's mistaking KCM to Naruto for Minato, which goes to support Swag's point, right? Swag's point was that there are multiple milestones that Naruto has to surpass or has to get to before he starts getting compared directly to Minato, and this supports his point. Previously, when Kakashi says he's surpassed me, he's talking about Naruto with the Rasen Shuriken. Yes, so you could argue that the Rasen Shuriken, I guess, if Noodles really wanted to push this, the Rasen Shuriken is over somebody else, like one of Naruto's predecessors, it would be over Kakashi. But then this would go to support Swag's point. So, let's get back to it.
So it's really controlling the chakra. Okay.
What chapter is it in?
I don't know. It's you can just look it up.
Okay, I'll find it.
I mean, like, come on, dude. If you make the claim, you have to be prepared to support it with evidence. At this point, I've lost track of who made the initial claim or whatever, so I'm not going to harp on it. But like, Swag could have definitely turned around and been like, okay, if you're going to use this, you got to get the scan, right? Or they could have asked Chad or whatever. I don't know. But the point is, yeah, burden of proof and all that is very important.
Huh.
In a less argumentative context, I could see somebody extending the clemency to the other and saying, okay, I shall accept your lack of scan and we can proceed with the you know, ideally stuff like that would happen, but obviously that's not going to happen between these two. So.
I don't think it's really relevant overall. Like most of the arguments. Oh, what was you said something at the beginning too? What was your initial statement? This is what happened.
I might be being too accusatory here, but it seems a little shifty, a little shady, for him to be like, well, I guess this doesn't matter. Like, let's go back to a previous point, right? It's not inherently shady to do that. If you're just like, you know what, I don't want to pursue this line of discourse anymore. Let's change the subject. Nothing wrong with that. But it's a little sketch that like that happened to occur right after he was asked to produce the scans. So, or to reference a specific what do you call it? Scene or whatever.
Shotgun points, so I gotta like jump around.
Sure, yeah. The initial statement was hold on, I'm looking for this chapter. That Minato's still being used as a benchmark deep into the end of the series. That's
I remember that part.
Yeah,
There's something specific you said.
Oh yeah, about how like Naruto, despite being way weaker, like massively weaker.
I just don't need a lot of vigor, bro. That's it.
By the time of the war, when he's being compared to Minato, over and over and over and over again.
It's his father.
Gentle feedback, and obviously, like, if this really bothered me, I could go watch it on Noodles' stream. But like, I do enjoy seeing Six play Elden Ring, and I also enjoy listening to debates. I would much rather tune into a Six fucking Elden Ring speed run, challenge run in 1080p or like 2K or whatever, and just watch that, and then also watch a stream that was just focused on the debate with all the scans on screen and stuff like that, like they've done in the past. To me, the mixing of these two things doesn't really help, especially when Six then like gets frustrated with the game and like talks over the debaters and I can't hear them. So there's a piece of feedback. I don't think that's being too harsh. Just like one thing at a time just makes it easier for people to listen in.
It's a recurring plot motif.
But like, in what ways is he being compared is the question, right?
We'll use this fight
in context to like holding like or manipulating like Ninetales chakra. He's better at manipulating it than both of them, so that means he's just surpassed them in manipulating Ninetales.
When he's fighting against SwagKage, I mean him.
Noodles is talking about chapter 617, says Orb, but Kurama is talking about surpassing Minato and Kushina in terms of controlling the Kyuubi chakra. Thank you for the reference, for sure. Let's take a look at that. I appreciate you bringing that up. 617. Thank you for the ad for I don't even know what. Let's see. You're saying Kurama is saying this? About surpassing Minato? A lot stronger, more than last time. So he's getting better at using KCM2 mode. He's like touching people and sharing their chakra. It ended up just as you wanted for SwagKage. For the only one who is able to link to my chakra right now is Naruto, who possesses Kushina's blood and has been together with me for years as a Jinchuriki. And Naruto has matured to the point where he's skillful enough to sense and transmute my chakra to be compatible with the shinobi and then hand it to them. Which is actually kind of crazy impressive that he's able to do this, right? Like with all of these different people. Although I can also help or use Naruto as an intermediary to give my chakra to anyone, the same exact way you handed over and inserted your own chakra into Naruto, Minato. He's already surpassed you both a while ago. Now the amount of chakra. Well, yeah, I also like don't have any problems whatsoever with the idea that KCM2 Naruto has surpassed Minato in quite a few ways. The amount of chakra we can link and he can transmit is on a different scale. And even if like Kurama is talking only about the chakra control and stuff like that's absolutely true as well. Nya, Kushina, Minato, you both pale in comparison to your brat Naruto. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think Minato could have pulled off anything like this, right? Like, Naruto has surpassed his predecessors. But this doesn't really help Noodles with the fucking Kakuzu thing at all. Because, like Swag is saying, this is almost 300 full chapters later. And this is after Naruto has undergone, like, he got Sage Mode, he got KCM1, he got KCM2, and then he got better at using KCM2 to get to this point in the first place, right? So, it's like, I hope nobody out here is saying that, like, even Noodles probably wouldn't say that fucking KCM2 Naruto loses to Kakuzu, right? Like, we're not that far gone.
Dodging the right Kage is like shown side by side, Minato doing the same thing.
Hold on. It's vague as the when, like, the Ninetale says he surpassed you both a while ago. So it's vague even the when he specifically surpassed him in, like, controlling our Ninetale chakra. Like, that could be a lot of different places, okay? It doesn't have to actually specify one specific thing, so it doesn't...
Not really. I mean, like, it could be a lot of different places. Like, it's not a specific definitive time, but it doesn't make sense to happen anytime before KCM1. Because he's specifically talking, like, the context of the scene is specifically about being able to, like, manipulate, control, share, whatever, the chakra. So, he doesn't really get the ability to even start doing this until he gets KCM1. So, I think it's a little disingenuous to be, like, that vague about it. KCM Naruto's below Kakuzu's base durability. Please, no. Please say it ain't so.
Have to be, like, the exact moment in the war you're referring to. The Kakashi example got shit on. I don't know what other example you even gave.
I don't understand how he could possibly think the Kakashi example got shit on. I don't think that term is useful, regardless, or I think it's uncalled for. But also, I don't think he even really addressed it.
So
I used.
If you gave another one,
I don't think the Kakashi example got shit on because you still haven't offered a reason why Kishimoto would put that in the story.
Okay, like I said, that's a mind-dependent fact. In order to verify,
it's really not mind-dependent to figure out what an author was trying to say. People do it all the time. I think.
Yeah, like Noodles. My recommendation to you, if you wind up listening to this, is just non-judgmentally. This is not me calling you an idiot. This is not me trying to be rude. Non-judgmentally, consider taking a free online course in literary interpretation if you haven't already, or if you have any like English professors or teachers or whatever that you might have met in high school or college or whatever that you could reach out to, just calmly, casually run this scenario by them. Be like, hey, I had this conversation with this guy. He said that we should try to understand that we should interpret the scene based in this particular way because he was arguing that like he understood the author's intentions, and I said that's not possible. We can't understand the author's intentions. Just bring that to somebody who's like an educated person who knows about literature and stuff, and just like go outside of the context. Don't listen to me, don't listen to Swag. Like, take it outside of the Naruto community so that it's not like involved in any of the debate or whatever. Just take it to somebody else and just run it in front of them and see what they say. Just see where the conversation takes you, right? Because I think that you just like you're lacking the perspective on how to approach engaging with literature. Or you're just fronting for the sake of like trying to clear this point, in which case then don't waste your fucking time, because you already know what I'm talking about and you're just being disingenuous. But I'd like to give you the benefit of the doubt and say that maybe that you have just been misinformed, and that you could do yourself a favor by talking to somebody who could help you with this. Fuck it, I'm happy to do so if you want to talk about this, but I have a feeling that that's not going to go anywhere. So talk to somebody else who is an unbiased, unrelated third party, and see if they can help you out. Okay? Noodles argue Kakuzu's so, oh my god, I don't think I could deal with that, man. Slimy Europe says Kakashi had to protect two far weaker characters while fighting Kakuzu in his hearts. That's true. Like, Noodles will gladly point out that Kakuzu's false darkness clashes with two of Kakashi's Raikiri, but the only well, not the only reason, but like the context for why he did that was that he jumped in front of Shikamaru and Choji to block Kakuzu's false darkness in the first place. You could also argue that that Kakuzu's false darkness forking out into 2 points like that was also done to be able to hit those two people, and that he could consolidate it into one more powerful bolt or something like that, right? So like, you know, acknowledging that that feat happened doesn't necessarily weaken your argument for Kakuzu, but it is something that is worth acknowledging, that Kakashi was not in a favorable position there. Hey there, King Chris Feet. It's one hell of a username. How you doing? Thank you for joining the stream and hanging out with us tonight. Yeah, Swag's still alive. I don't know him personally. I don't really know what he's up to, but he's had a few debates recently. If you check out Six's channel over here and go to the live section, he debated D1 recently on... I don't even remember. It was like Chunin exams, Lee versus Sasuke, I think. So he's been around. He's been hanging out in Six's streams. I don't know if he has... I think he put out a new video somewhat recently. But yeah, feel free to check that out if you want to see more of what he is saying and doing. Can't speak for him, though. Here's a body pillow of Kakuzu. Honestly, I would get a body pillow of Kakuzu at this point. Like, I'm so invested in this fucking character that we're gonna get married if I'm not careful. An educated person to him is probably Discord goons. Well, that's what I'm saying. Is that, like, sometimes I think, you know, I have friends who don't know anything about Naruto whatsoever, and so sometimes I will go to them and be like, can you please give me a reality check here? Because I'm so deep in the weeds with this community, with this shit. It's kind of like if you're developing a video game, you want people to test your game who have never played a game in the genre before, who might not even be gamers or whatever, and definitely not anybody who's in your company, right? So, like, a lot of times, before we open up a game that we're working on to the general public, we'll do friends and family. We'll just invite people in, like, you know, we'll invite somebody's, like, 8 or 10-year-old kid or whatever to come into the office in a room with some other testers, and they'll just, like, play the game and give us their unbiased thoughts. And, like, kids like that, like, they will tell us everything they hate. So it's, like, it's very, very good feedback. We get a sense of what they think is fun and not and all that. So it's very useful, and it's good to get thoughts from people who aren't going to hold back, and also who just might have a completely different perspective. Like, you might make something in a game that feels super intuitive and super, you know, everything just works naturally, but then you give it to somebody else and they're like, what the fuck is this? What am I supposed to do? Right? So, yeah. That's why I say just get an unbiased third party to just give you a rundown, and hopefully that will help.
No. Actually, that goes down like that's the author rabbit hole, and I doubt your philosophical.
No, it really doesn't. You're evading the question because you don't have an answer.
No, it really does, because you're not able to actually discern what's inside of an author's head, like epistemically.
I think that's a straw man. Like, Swag isn't saying that he can read Kishimoto's mind, but that by analyzing and understanding the art in context, you can correctly interpret the overall message that is being conveyed.
You can't
You
discern
have to
what
do
people
that.
are thinking.
Noodles,
Like, even if an author comes out and tells you what they were thinking later, that doesn't mean they didn't retroactively change it. That doesn't mean it hasn't been years and they've forgotten. That doesn't mean that maybe they made a plot hole and they want to change it later. You know, things like that. Like,
yeah, so like Noodles also tried, like, snuck it in almost, but maybe that's not the right term for it. They were just talking over each other. But like he has objected in this debate, and then also in his debate with Six. Like, he gets upset when people, quote unquote, make the debates too philosophical and change the debate away from the topic of scaling to philosophy. But that's what he's doing. He's bringing up Death of the Author. He's bringing up the notion of, like, epistemically understanding an author's intentions. Which is not, it's not like you're not allowed to talk about that or whatever. It's an interesting topic. We're talking about interpreting art at the end of the day, so why not talk about how to correctly interpret art in an art analysis stream? But at the same time, it's like very reductive and a big straw man to basically be representing the topic in this way.
Even if someone tells
also, Mikola's hair is like fucking wild.
That doesn't even truly verify what they were actually thinking at the time. That's why it's a mind-dependent fact. Because language itself is an inferior way of communication. A true way to communicate with people would be if I could touch your skin and we could just instantly feel each other's thoughts.
Noodles is really on this ninth grade philosophy, bro.
Oh my god, this is so weird.
Yeah, he came down on 6 really hard for making things too philosophical or whatever, like making it a debate about philosophy. But he's the one who keeps introducing this weird shit.
I'm just asking you to infer what the author.
Sit down and wait till the end.
This is just feeling nice today and good content. Appreciate it.
Language itself is a tool.
I'm also just now realizing that this boss fight has to be a direct reference and iteration on Lothric and Lothian at the end of Dark Souls 3, because you have the one character who's more sort of like feeble and frail, and he's directly hanging on top of the other character. He's using light-based abilities like light magic, while the other character's like a big strong warrior who's like smashing shit with a big sword. I mean, obviously there's some differences, but yeah, wow, this really is Lothric and Lothian 2.0. Damn.
Used to describe our emotions.
I don't want to read that out loud, Shinigami, but it did make me chuckle. I'll give you that.
Our feelings and our thoughts, right? That doesn't mean the words actually capture what our feelings say, what our thoughts say.
Man, who?
I mean, Noodles is being so fucking solipsistic about this. I was half joking before when I was like, if you can't believe in anything, you can't know anything for sure. But that's what he's doing. Like, if you follow this line of reasoning, basically what Noodles is saying is that, nobody can ever understand anybody else. Nobody can ever understand anything anybody is saying. Everything is just an illusion through veils of interpretation. You can't know anything anyway. And so what he's doing is he is basically implying that there is no point to people talking to each other, right? If you follow this to its to the full conclusion. Now, I don't want to straw man, he's not literally saying that, but if you go through, if you apply reductio ad absurdum to this, that is the implication of what he's saying. And Six is right in calling this a 6th grade or what did he say? 6th grade philosophy point. In that, this sort of thing seems like a really big quandary and a real, a mind-bending thing when you are, in middle school or high school and you're just discovering philosophy for the first time. But it's also something that is extremely well known. People have been very, grappling with this for centuries, if not millennia, and it is absolutely possible to reconcile this and still engage in an epistemically honest, empirical exploration of the world around you. In other words, fuck solipsism.
Who gives a fuck, nigga?
Flawed, in a way.
It was anti-Ninshu. Yeah, exactly. Or actually, I think in a way he's kind of advocating for Ninshu. He's pining for humans to have the ability to connect with each other in the way that Hagoromo was wanting. And he's saying that, since we don't have, we can't, actualize Hagoromo's vision, then basically, we can't really know anything at all.
Language is flawed. So,
or we can't communicate at all, sorry.
To be able to say that, this isn't just a mind-dependent fact is pretty funny, considering you literally, in order to verify what Kishimoto's thinking, you have to verify what he was actually inside of his head.
But again, Swag never said, I'm trying to verify what he was thinking. Or maybe he did, but I think the spirit of what he's saying, as opposed to the letter, is what was the message that he was trying to convey? I think I've harped on this point enough, and we should probably move on. But yeah, it's bizarre.
At the time, and that's impossible. So I'm not worried about what Kishimoto's thinking at the time. I'm only concerned with what the narrative is portraying to us objectively. So if the narrative is showing me Naruto surpassed the 4th Hokage, I can take that statement and be like, okay, this is a valid...
Yeah, so I sort of understand what his objection is. He thinks that Swag, from my perspective, he thinks what Swag is doing is he's trying to appeal to the author's opinion or perspective, irrespective to what is actually in the series itself. And what Swag is saying is that the series reveals the author's intention, or rather, he's essentially, he and Noodles are kind of saying the same thing with different words. Is that like what Swag is advocating for is like, let's look at the text and see what the message of the text is. But because he phrased it in a particular way, like, what do you think Kishimoto was thinking? What do you think Kishimoto wanted? Then Noodles is like getting so fixated on the idea that it's like trying to peer into the author's mind. But what Swag is really trying to say is, let's make sure we understand the intended message of the text, which Noodles is now basically saying the same thing. So this is why an actual steelman is such a valuable tool in a debate. Just taking the moment not to just agree with what your opponent is saying temporarily, but to build up to like repeat what your opponent says, paraphrase it, and build it up to the strongest possible version that it could possibly be, and then interrogate and address that. And you go forward from there. It's a whole lot better. Yeah, what's up, Shinigami? I saw your message. I don't really feel like reading out that last thing that you said, but, yeah. What's up? How well do you think Noodles can understand the usage of the Death Note? I don't know. Yeah. I'm not sure.
Solid interpretation of that statement. This is what the book is.
Maybe, you know, I kind of hesitate to speak for people like that, but maybe a little bit better because I think you probably understand it pretty well because all of the rules are laid out very clearly with like as people in our community like to say, verbatim statements, right? So you can very easily pull out the Death Note manga and find the page where like it explains the rules and exactly what the consequences are and how they work, especially now after that the series is concluded. Whereas you're gonna find it harder to locate things about why Naruto was depicted the way he was against Minato's silhouette. Although you will occasionally find things like that in the art books and in interviews, but if Noodles is going to just dismiss anything the author says and take this approach of like, you can't actually know what the author was thinking when they were writing the story, even if they literally tell you exactly what they were thinking when they wrote the story, then I'm like, okay, like, what's the fucking point, right? Noodles would understand Death Note usage no problem. Yeah, because it feels like it's much more concrete and less abstract and less narratively oriented, if that makes sense.
Is telling me. I don't give a fuck what Kishimoto was thinking. If Kishimoto comes out later and he's like, no, I meant Naruto's actually weaker.
Bro, like one of you guys needs to cut him off. He's been talking for so long and won't let me let it.
Transcends the author at that point.
And I disagree with that too. I think that like, well, I have mixed feelings about Death of the Author. But the thing is that, like, Death of the Author isn't, like, a trump card. It's a perspective, and some people agree with it and some people don't. And I think that it gets used too often as, like, a trap card or whatever, like a Yu-Gi-Oh card in debates. It should be a tool that can help you understand a story as opposed to, like, a, you know, like a haha, checkmate type thing.
I just asked you, like...
Been funny if you said he would write his own. No. I wouldn't advocate for that. I think that's uncalled for.
What do you think this means? And you got into like, oh well, if we'd be able to like some shit about like touching skin. I just like Noodles. It's really not a hard question to answer. You don't have to keep evading it. What do you think the narrative purpose of having Kakashi? I mean, no matter how you want to frame it, it is a.
Yeah. So that's another thing that I think we should give Swag credit for is that like he will actually paraphrase and like change his phrasing and clarify things. And then what will happen is that Noodles will tend to get stuck on his original phrasing, but Swag is not, like, held up by the idea that he has to continue... Like he'll correct himself, and he'll, like, adjust course, right? So that's important.
Comparison. So what do you think the narrative purpose of having Kakashi compare Naruto to Minato? Oh my dude, I just let you talk for so long, and you're not gonna let me finish?
Listen, you're already saying dumb shit, though.
Oh my god, bro.
You're already saying dumb shit. You're saying I'm being offensive.
Okay.
All right. Let's chill.
Playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic the Gathering is harder than understanding the Death Note. Yeah, that's true. Magic especially. Maybe not back in the like the Portal and Tempest days, but I just dated myself. But yeah, like definitely today. I'm overwhelmed by all the new like rules and mechanics and stuff. But anyway, fuck man. I think it is kind of ironic, to say the least, that Noodles earlier on in the debate was like, hey, I'm not going to interrupt you, you're not going to interrupt me, and we're going to have a progressive or a productive conversation accordingly. But now he's interrupting Swag, and when Swag says, please don't, Noodles says, well, you're saying dumb shit. Okay, so like, if debater A thinks debater B is being stupid, does that give them license to just interrupt them whenever they want? Like... That's pretty hypocritical. I'm just gonna like be blunt. That's pretty hypocritical. Fuck. Slimy Europe says the important thing to know is that we don't know how long Minato tried to add nature to the Rasengan. That's true. Like, he might have been able to accomplish it later. Like, let's say Naruto put 5,000 hours of training into that specifically. Like, Minato might not have had a box of 5,000 uninterrupted hours in order to be able to do that, right? Like, or he might, I forget, does he have, he must have wind transformation, right? But, like, if he doesn't, let's say he had fire, he might have come up with a completely different jutsu, right? Actually, I should just fucking look this up. Why do I not know this? What natures does he have access to? Oh, yeah, okay, so fire, wind, lightning, yin and yang. Okay, so, I mean, that being said, though, Naruto just has lightning at least at first. Or not, like, fuck me, he has wind at first. So, maybe, like, Minato would have come up with some crazy new S-rank fire shape transformation jutsu or something. I don't know. Like, he could have come up with other things, right? Imagine if he did the same thing that Naruto did, but he applied yin release to the Rasengan. Like, it created like a shadow Rasengan or something like that. That would be really cool, I think. One Smart says Death Note as a franchise is very overrated. Interesting. Why do you think so? I don't necessarily disagree with you. I don't have a strong opinion, but I'd be curious if you want to share more about that.
Swag, say whatever you want to say.
Okay, so
I don't think Swag is ratting at all. I don't know why Noodles feels the need to throw out a jab like that. Like, you can think that Swag's arguments are total dog doo-doo, but he's been pretty genuine throughout the whole debate. I think that's pretty uncalled for.
Like
yeah, it's cringe to hear him go like that, but you know, sort of understandable. Shigami says, "John, fuck me." No, thank you. Oh, dude, I used to use that line on a couple of friends of mine because they would it would be like they would be like, "Hey, fuck you," and I'd be like, "Okay, when?" Right? This made them uncomfortable. So then they stopped saying "fuck you." Kuribo says, learning key phrases in Magic takes some time. Yu-Gi-Oh! The cards do a lot more, but the language feels more clear. I just might be more biased towards Yu-Gi-Oh! Hey, that's totally fine. I haven't played Magic in a long time. I tried to get back into it a couple years ago, but I just was pretty overwhelmed by the massive amounts of, like, I got overwhelmed by Hearthstone on release with the options that game had, and that was much simpler, much more restrained, so to speak. So, yeah, I just, if I have like so many options, I'm gonna spend all this time agonizing over all the different permutations and like build optimization stuff, and it's gonna make me miserable, honestly. Learning key phrases in Magic takes time. Oh yeah, it's only because it's too complex for him. Maybe. Oh wait, are you saying too complex for Kuribo? I don't know why you would have beef with Kuribo.
I think that you're evading the question. It's really not that difficult to answer. And Minato is like consistently a benchmark like throughout the series, right? Like it's not something like Hashimoto. No, let me fucking finish, please. It's not something like Hashimoto. Like you can't sneak this little narrative in there. They're like, oh well, you know, Kakashi's calling back to this time that he got saved, because I mean, like, Naruto is like, it literally begins with the story hyping up Minato as this like warrior without peer. You know, you have people like Jiraiya saying that, like, and keep in mind, this Jiraiya who thought, like, you know, the leader of the Akatsuki, it was inconceivable for him to have beaten Hanzo, right, when he goes to the Hidden Rain Village, okay? He says, knowing that Hanzo is still alive, nobody is even close to Minato, and then Tsunade immediately agrees with him. You know, you got the third.
I would appreciate seeing scans for this. I don't know if Swag is really getting all of this correct. So it would be fair for Noodles to be like, yo, give me some scans, right? Which I think he does, actually. I think he's about to. Oh, you guys have history, okay. I'm not gonna get in between you, but you know, try and keep it friendly.
When Orochimaru invades, you know, oh, it's only the fourth right here. You got the. No, I'm just. This is not a shotgun. This is all in service of 1 point. You only have to respond to 1 point, okay? And you just talked for like 40 years, bro. So you gotta let me have this. You know, I'll consolidate this though. I'll only give like one more example. You know, you got people, you know, saying like, oh, I'm the fastest ninja ever since the fourth Hokage died. You know, you got Kakashi, etc., etc. So when deep into the war arc like this, and this is not the only example of something like this happening.
Yeah, I'll just interject really briefly here to say that I think it's totally fine to basically be like, okay, not to Gish Gallop, but I am going to make a bunch of points that are in service of a larger point. So, for example, I think that I am in good shape. The reason why I'm saying that is because I can do 20 push-ups, and I can do 15 pull-ups, and I can squat my body weight and bench press my body weight, right? And because of all those things, I think I'm in good shape. Now, you would be well within your rights to say, okay, now prove that. Show me that you can do all those exercises, right? Because I just made those claims. However, you wouldn't need to like interrupt and be like, whoa, 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 bench press? Hang on, you're shotgunning me. Go back to the bench press thing for a second, right? Like, obviously, you need to be aware of gish galloping. If somebody is trying to like filibuster you or whatever, you can call that out. But it's not disingenuous and it's not counterproductive to say a bunch of things at once that lead to a larger point, as long as you're open to then being challenged on the individual parts.
You have Kakashi looking at Naruto, seeing him as Minato, and Kishimoto even going out of his way to draw Naruto with a similar cloak design to Minato. You have to ask yourself, well, what's the
Yeah, I'm not in great shape anymore. I'm not trying to gas myself up, believe me.
purpose of this in the art that I'm engaging with? And the purpose is probably to draw a parallel between Naruto and Minato. And it's right after he, achieved a really impressive feat. He deflected 5-tailed beast bombs. I'm not necessarily saying that this does or does not mean that Minato could do the same thing, right? But what I'm saying is we're at chapter like 580 or some shit like that. Minato's still being invoked. He's still having his name invoked in order to convey how powerful a character is, how much progress
That was
a
almost
character
a
is
no
making.
hit.
And Kakuzu's nowhere to be seen. Been like 200 chapters since Kakuzu first showed up.
Oh, fuck, I'm not
Naruto beat him by hitting him twice with the Rasen Shuriken. You're not answering the question because there's not a good answer to the question. No matter how you honestly answer it, it makes your argument look really bad.
I want evidence for every single statement, like the Jiraiya statement, the unparalleled speed statement. I want all of those, so that way we can break them down one by one. I'm not going to go through this filibuster and just like try and like track like 5 fucking arguments in a row. So either you bring evidence for each and every single one of those claims, or you drop them. Because I'm not going to sit here.
Let's go over them one at a time. I'll get the Jiraiya and Tsunade one first.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
And then you're
Light is such a bootlicker until his god was his challenge, killing people already in prison. I think he starts off idealistic, but like the idealism winds up becoming just like sacrifice on the altar of his arrogance and ego. Like he buys into his own hype too much. Shinigami says my aim is to get that Ichigo body. Hey, respect, go for it. The Slimy Orb says, in the wise words of Wambu in their school video, thick boy is still a fit boy. Damn, I'm gonna need some context for that reference there.
You're gonna have to elaborate on exactly why this means he's like powerful as well. Like the speed statement, I don't care. Jiraiya's like knowledge claim about Minato, don't really care about that. He doesn't. Even
I don't think I have to elaborate.
Okay, well, just saying I don't care doesn't help. Like fucking. Why am I struggling with this? I see his logo in my head. Why can't I say the name? Sage. Fuck me. Too many fucking monosyllables. Sage of Thick Calves did this shit to me too, where I'll present him with a whole bunch of evidence and be like, see, please look at all this stuff, and he'll just be like, I don't care, none of that matters. I'm like, okay, well then fuck, why are we even talking?
On why this means he's powerful. I think this is you.
You don't think you have to like link the entailment to your like
Jiraiya says he's powerful and Tsunade agrees these are trustworthy characters.
Hold on, what does he say? He's powerful?
He says, come on, everybody pales in comparison to the Fourth Lord.
Yeah, doesn't he mention like charisma in that same panel too? Like personality, charisma, like alternate traits. Like, does it have to be just power? I think he's like
Tsunade immediately says as a shinobi his capacity.
I think that's also a bit of a straw man. Like, I don't think Swag is saying that it's just power, but the implication is that power is part of it. Send a picture of Ichigo. Yeah, I'll take a look.
The literal next speech bubble, Tsunade says, as a shinobi, his capacity was unparalleled, a true one of a kind. So I think the statements are meant. No, I think you're being a rat here again. I think the statements are meant to go hand in hand.
Oh yeah, nice. I can see why you would. I see why you would want that body for sure.
Another good hand.
Oh, they make a vid ranking the different forms, aka skulls in the game Skull the Hero Slayer, and one is wide and strong. Oh, okay, gotcha.
Well, Jiraiya says.
I think the type I would kind of like to have, honestly, like the body type I'd like to have is Curtis. Is it this? Images. Like this dude? Okay, well, no, okay. He's not how I remembered him. Okay, so I don't think I'm ever going to get this bulky. I mean, that's not realistic for my genetics, but I think I prefer this kind of aesthetic, you know, sort of like the big guard dog juggernaut, like, you know, hold the front line, hold the door kind of thing. Like, I don't want like the big like yes I'm here, you know, like I don't necessarily want to be that same level of trim. I don't also necessarily want to be as like ripped as Armstrong over here. I like the idea of having a big bit of a, you know, beer belly. Not the beer belly. What the fuck? That's not it at all. I'm failing at words tonight. What's the a barrel chest? Is that the term for it? Like I want the blacksmith build. I want the like the dwarven miner but taller, like you know, like the guy who looks like he's gonna be right on the front lines of the battle with a big ass shield, you know, just like protecting other people. That's kind of the build that I want, if that makes sense. I'm halfway there. Slimy Europe says, "Oh yeah, okay."
Everybody pales in comparison to the Fourth Lord, and wait, no, hold on. This is Jiraiya saying this, actually. Yeah, Jiraiya says as a shinobi his capacity was unparalleled, a true one of a kind. I thought that was Tsunade saying that, but no, that's Jiraiya. So yes, Jiraiya is saying everybody pales in comparison to him. This would include Hanzo, who he believes is above all of the.
So I think it would be worth potentially pushing back on that and being like, okay, do we really think that Hashirama pales in comparison to Minato? Maybe not.
In comparison, as a shinobi isn't just like some like specific attribute. So as a shinobi, that encompasses
he said his capacity
things that
was unparalleled. His capacity. Okay. Let me. No. The next speech bubble after that addresses this. The next speech bubble after that addresses this.
I'm going to explain this point. He was responding.
Yeah, power lifter. I think like that's a bit too much. I'm trying to think of I don't think, even if I like dedicated myself full time, like I don't have the genetics and the capability of looking like Kratos from God of War, the recent God of War games, but that's a little bit closer to what I'm looking for. Trying to think, just like, you know, I'm trying to think of an example. No, I can't think of anything. I'm not looking to, like, when I go work out, like, I'm not looking to get shredded per se. I just want to be, like, functionally fit and strong. And if I have, like, a little bit of padding on top of that, like, I'm actually totally fine with that. I just want to be, like, flexible and have good endurance and good stamina and good, you know, like, the ability to pick up heavy things and put them down. And to be helpful. If my friends want help moving furniture, I want to be able to, like, pick up the heavy thing that nobody else can pick up and just, like, help them out, you know, stuff like that. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Everybody knows.
Hold on,
I'll put it on the screen. I'm just saying, like,
so
he was.
You're saying everyone pales in comparison as a shinobi. That encompasses the totality of everything that makes a ninja exceptional, which includes things such as intelligence, leadership, tactical skill, experience, mission performance, overall capability as a ninja. It doesn't outline any specific attribute, so that doesn't scale Minato anywhere in particular. It's a
Well, I don't know that it would need to, right? Like, I don't know why Noodles is frustrated about this, because if like Minato is categorically just a better shinobi than fucking I got sidetracked trying to think of like what body type I want. Sorry. If Minato is just categorically better than Kakuzu, then it doesn't really matter what specific, like, if any one particular specific stat is better or worse than Kakuzu, because it's just saying that his overall capability, like the gestalt of all of his abilities and stats, will be higher than Kakuzu, and he'll be able to achieve a victory over him, right? Like, I don't think Swag is advocating or arguing for any particular one stat, so I don't get the frustration here. Which Thor am I trying to look like? I guess, like, I don't know. I don't think Thor is it either. I can't think of a good example. The version of, like I saw a blacksmith at a Ren fair, and that's kind of what I'm picturing in my head. Where he has, like, you know, he's got strong arms and a big, strong chest, big pecs and stuff like that, but he's not like Armstrong with just like shredded with a six-pack. He doesn't have a visible six-pack. He has what I think I would describe as like a barrel chest, or like a, you know, sort of I don't know. It looks a bit more like a cuddly bear in some regards, with like a keg or something. I don't fucking know how to describe it. So he's not like totally shredded and totally ripped. He does have some padding on him, but you could tell, like, he works all day, like, hammering stuff. Like, he has a lot of functional fitness, a lot of functional strength, and, I don't know, the way that he carried himself while working with his tools and stuff like that. I was like, okay, you could just tell by looking at this guy that, like, he can handle himself, he can take care of people, he can, I don't know, there's something that like, as somebody who has spent a good amount of time, at least in the past, like working out and being invested in fitness and stuff like that and weightlifting, I'm like, I respect that. I felt like I had a similar vibe to the Curtis and Armstrong, like handshake type thing, where it's like, yeah, respectable muscles. Fuck yeah, I wanna have those someday. That type of
another scaleless statement. So unless you have something actually established,
we're not talking about scaling. We're not talking about scaling. I already said I was making a narrative argument.
Yeah, but it's a bullshit narrative argument that's ignoring.
It's not. Okay. Also to address what
I just looked up a picture of barrel chest in my other screen, and that's not what I was thinking of either. So I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I have no idea what the term is for what I am describing. I guess maybe like Daniel Craig in the recent James Bond movies. That's kind of what I'm going for, but maybe a little thicker, a little extra padding on top of that, if that makes sense.
You just said. He says explicitly he was overflowing with talent for.
Or like Andy, what's his name? This is nobody asked, but like what the fuck is his name? The guy from Spartacus. Andy Whitfield from Spartacus as well. He's like he's like a 10. As far as like male physiques go, as far as I can tell. Yeah. But I mean, like him, but with an extra 30 pounds is probably like what I'm looking for. Maybe 20. 30 is too much. Him, but a little extra 20. Just so I can still give really good hugs, you know.
Jutsu and intelligence.
Okay, do you think he achieved his pinnacle of talent, considering he died at like 21 or whatever it was? Probably not, right? He didn't achieve his pinnacle. He got like killed pretty early.
Why is this relevant?
I'm just asking a simple question. Just a yes or no will do.
Swag doesn't have to. He's not just like, come on. He's not just asking a question. He's asking a question because he has a specific. I need to stop looking at this in the other screen. He has a specific point that he's trying to make, right? So Swag doesn't have to answer this.
I don't think it's relevant, so I don't know. I can't say.
Okay, that's called being evasive. So
I don't think I'm being evasive.
No, that's not being evasive. Like I don't know. Well, sorry for losing interest, but I had to look at a bunch of like well-defined pecs for a little while. Yeah, I have my priorities, man. Slimy Europe says I found the bit of the skull video I was talking about. I'm gonna link it on the server. Yeah, please feel free to go ahead and do so. Yeah, I just got a little distracted by fucking Andy Whitfield's massive. Never mind.
I can't hear.
Oh yeah. So Swag isn't like. Just because your interlocutor refuses to fall for your trap doesn't mean they're being evasive. At least in a derogatory sense. Like, yeah, they're evading the traps, the caltrops you threw in the road for them, but like that's not a bad thing.
Kishimoto's mind. I can't like touch his skin and like take in the information or whatever the fuck you're saying.
Of course, he could have gotten better, right? He was 21, bro. You don't think people get better after they're 21?
So
I think what he thinks that Swag is saying is that Minato achieved his maximum potential at age 21. But that's not what that statement was saying. Slimy Orb says, sorry, Minato might have achieved his max potential since he died to Kurama and Obito after keeping the seal of Kurama strengthened for hours. That could be. I think there's an implication though that like if Kurama had never shown up, right? Like Minato just went on fighting and training that like by the time he was 40, he probably would have developed new jutsu and gotten more strength and techniques and stuff like that. And so... But I mean, this is just more gas for Minato, right? Because it's saying that, like, even though he didn't live long enough to achieve his full potential, when he was 21, he had already, like, outstripped and outranked pretty much everybody else in the world. Maybe Hashirama and Tobirama weren't being considered because they were dead at that point, right? But, like, Minato was at the top of the shinobi world when he was 21, and if he had survived longer, he would have gotten even better. So I think he's trying to say that, like, the statement is invalid because Swag is saying that Minato was at his own max potential at 21, but that's not what Swag is saying. He's saying that the statement from Jiraiya is that Minato was better than anybody else at that age and would have gotten even better later on by implication. Just really weird stuff. Slimy says, also, thing to note, Minato might know every Uzumaki sealing jutsu besides adamantine sealing chains. Yeah, because he was, like, studying the sealing jutsu directly from Kushina, right?
I think I know where this is going. You're trying to argue that Jiraiya was just saying he had unparalleled talent, but that he wasn't an unparalleled
right? Okay, here's a good example.
But he just before that says, as a shinobi, his capacity was unparalleled. So he's talking about.
Swag, I haven't even made the argument.
No, you're making it.
So I'm going to finish the argument before you start filibustering.
Okay, go for it, bro.
Smacking you the fuck around, but hold on just a second. Okay? So, for one, here's your statement. He was overflowing with talent, jutsu, and intelligence, and was socially popular. He was even quite the looker, just like me. So many things outside of power and, like, actual scaling there. You're just talking about, like, an overall narrative sense, I guess. As a shinobi, his capacity was truly a one of a kind. Let's talk about the talent part that you were referring to.
This is Ratatouille,
if we're saying that, like, somebody has a talent for jutsu, that means they're, like, quick learning, they're, like, picking shit up quick, they're really good at doing it, and they're showing really, like, good early signs. Let's say we have a boxer, like, a really good boxer, and like, a world-famous trainer, like, Freddie Roach is like, yeah, he's got a great talent for boxing, more talent than I've seen of anyone. And then let's say that same boxer dies in a car crash, like the next day. In that situation, that boxer isn't necessarily the best boxer ever. They didn't achieve what they could have achieved. Did they have the
Yeah, I don't think Noodles is understanding Swag's point.
Talent to do it? That's possible. They did have the talent to do it. I agree Minato had a great talent. It's a shame that he died at 21. That doesn't mean he actually reached the pinnacle of his skill. That doesn't mean he's...
Yeah, nobody is saying that Minato had already reached his own maximum potential. They're saying there are a few statements that are being used in parallel. One, as a shinobi, he had unparalleled capacity, right? And I guess what he's trying to argue is that unparalleled capacity doesn't mean that he has actualized that capacity, and therefore you can't say that Minato was the best out of all shinobi. Okay. So, like, this I can actually sympathize with. If his argument is that shinobi this is a whole, like, rat's nest. Okay, so Swag is arguing from Noodle's perspective, it seems that he thinks that Swag is saying that Minato is unparalleled as a shinobi. But Noodles is fact-checking this, and he looks at the statement, and the statement says he had unparalleled capacity. Having capacity doesn't mean you have achieved that capacity, and therefore this statement wouldn't necessarily work, because the statement is referring to, like, hey, he was a genius, and eventually he could have eclipsed the rest of the ninja world, but he didn't live long enough to achieve that, so we can't say for sure that he actually did. His interpretation is that what Jiraiya is saying is that, like, Minato had the potential to become the greatest, but it didn't necessarily get there yet, whereas Swag's interpretation is that he did get there, and I actually agree with Noodles on this one. I think, based on this statement in and of itself, in isolation, if you look at the rest of the statements that Swag has brought up, or the rest of the narrative context surrounding it, my opinion might change. But based on this, I think it would be fine from a casual readership standpoint to come to the conclusion that what the statement is telling us is that Minato is the bestest ever. OMG, you guys, he's so cool. But I don't know if that's fair to use as, like, literal direct scaling, if that makes sense. So Noodle's objection to me here is fair, especially given the context of what Jiraiya is saying, like, oh, he was quite a looker, right? Like, this is some gas. This is not necessarily anything discrete, if that makes sense. Noodles is seeing talent as potential. Yeah. I think we're... yeah, rats. We are the rats. Fucking love that video so much. Minato is Noodles' Megumi. Megumi's from JJK, right? Your girlfriend loves both Ichigo and Grimmjow. I don't know Grimmjow, unfortunately. Bleach character? Let me see. Where'd you send it? Where did you send it, Shinigami? I am not seeing a message from you, Shinigami. Oh, wait, there it is. It didn't just give me the notification for some reason. Oh, yeah, cool. Yeah, that's reasonable. That's a nice looking dude. I think you could pull that off.
He superseded...
Oh, sorry. If Megumi was moving like Minato, he would have given Sukuna nightmares. I'm going to nod and pretend I understand any of that.
Everyone else that existed in the ninja world. That just means he was truly one of a kind at the time he was alive. And it's a shame that he's dead now.
That's a fair objection.
See how that completely fits in the narrative, too? Like, that's a valid interpretation of the narrative, and it's not you trying to string shit together that doesn't necessarily...
I'm not trying to string shit together. Okay, so... No, because you're ignoring, like, you're mixing and matching and ignoring a lot of what's being said here. So, he says, first of all... he says, "Oh, come on," everybody pales in comparison to the Fourth Lord. Okay, I think the implication is pretty clear, pretty implicit there. Then we move on. As a shinobi, his capacity was unparalleled.
Yeah, I think that you can look at this and be like, okay, so the whole tone of this conversation here is kind of like joking, right? These characters are kind of bantering, and I wouldn't necessarily take what is being said here in and of itself as hard proof of anything. But to try to be fair about this, right? Tsunade is basically saying, like, unlike your last disciple, this kid's got worse mouth, brains, and even mug, I guess, like face. So she is saying, hey, Jiraiya, your last student was better than this one, which is true, at least subjectively on some of the stuff. But then Jiraiya says, in defense of Naruto, hey, don't be unfair to Naruto, because, like, nobody can really live up to Minato's legacy anyway. Like, he was fucking crazy good, right? So I think that that Jiraiya himself saying that, like, hey, my student here was a fucking genius, so, like, an insane genius, so, like, you can't compare Naruto to him in Naruto's defense. I can see why Swag would look at that and be like, okay, this is Jiraiya telling us how fucking awesome the Fourth Lord was. And that is fair. And I also think that in the context of a debate, it's okay for Noodles to point out that, like, you could also interpret this through the lens of, wow, Minato was such a fucking awesome student. He was so cool. But then, like, where does that actually scale to? So you would then need to take this as one piece of evidence and put it into context with other things. So I think, like, the truth, so to speak, like, is a medium intersection point between their two perspectives. They're both making some decent points, but Noodles, I think for the debate context, Noodles' objection holds here.
The honest interpretation of this is that Minato's strong. He is generally across the board just
Strong.
Sure, yeah, whatever. He's strong. He was overflowing with talent for jutsu and intelligence.
It's a power scaling debate, by the way. You have to scale him some way. You can't just say he's vaguely strong.
Why don't? That's not. I mean, what I'm talking about right now, we're hung up on just this really, like, stupid fucking, like I asked you to answer a question, you weren't able to answer the question, and you also asked me to kneel down and go over every single general. Oh fuck! Hold on, 1 second. My mic.
There isn't a single.
You asked me. No. Hold on. You asked me.
Wish we got to see Kushina use the Rasengan. That would have been cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Slimy Europe says, I decided to check out the Minato one-shot. I love that Kushina's hair moves upward when she's angry. Yeah, it's awesome. I love her design, too. I think we talked about this last time, but, like, specifically this rendition, I don't even have, like, a particular reason for it, but I just love this design here. Like, characters who, like, are partially beast transformed or something like that. That's a really cool look. Like a werewolf aesthetic, almost.
Yeah. Okay, you asked me to post every single example that I just gave, so that we could go over it in granular detail.
You filibuster.
I didn't think that we were going to be talking about this this bar or wherever the fuck they are conversation for however long this is. Okay, but here we are, and I'm not just going to drop the point. So anyway, talent doesn't have to mean potential. For example, it doesn't have to mean unrealized potential. If somebody say is the best in the world at something, it would not be out of place to call them talented. And considering everything else that Jiraiya is saying here, I think it's pretty on brand, pretty reasonable to assume that he's saying that, Minato, just generally speaking, better at ninjutsu, smarter, etc., so on and so forth than everybody else. Everybody pales in comparison to him.
Yeah, and, like, I think that's a totally fine narrative interpretation. I agree with Swag's interpretation of the narrative, but I also agree with Noodle's objection to using that as a piece of evidence in the context of a debate.
Okay, you remember the whole narrative in Naruto that hard work beats talent? Remember that?
I disagree with
narrative. I'm not saying that's necessarily true. Don't get me wrong. What I'm saying is, you know of that narrative, right? That hard work can beat talent.
Okay, sure. Where is this going?
You know that's a narrative in Naruto. That's all I'm saying. Okay, so what I'm saying is that talent is like your natural aptitude for something. It's what you're already good at. You don't have to train for it. So sure, Minato might have had a really good natural aptitude for ninjutsu, right? And Jiraiya thinks he might even have unparalleled, natural aptitude for ninjutsu. That doesn't measure how good he is at ninjutsu, though. That just means he's naturally good at it.
You think that saying...
It's a little bit of a silly phrasing there, like, that doesn't measure how good somebody is, it just measures how naturally good they are. But I understand what he's saying. It's like, there's a difference between your potential to pick up a new skill. Like, if you have a 6-year-old kid who is like a prodigy violinist or whatever, and he's already playing concert halls and stuff, or like Yo-Yo Ma or whatever was like super young when he started manifesting his cello prodigy or whatever, that doesn't mean that like that little kid is the best cello player in the world, but at that point he's just extremely talented for his age, and then eventually, you know, he has this extreme advantage and will probably become the best, right? There's a difference there, and that's fair to say. And I'll call your girlfriend and sleep. Hey, good job getting to bed at a reasonable time. I hope you sleep well. Thanks for hanging out. 6 reaction is fantastic. 6's reactions. So as much as it's unfortunate that sometimes he talks over the debaters, his reactions are generally like really funny.
It was overflowing with talent.
No,
you think that he was over?
Orb says, I think a more fair thing to talk about is that Minato is always talked about to being the best in part 1, and then it becomes Hashirama and Shippuden to counter the Minato being the best stuff. That's fair. That's fair to compare them. I mean, like, Kurama does in the Minato one-shot compare Minato directly to Hashirama, so it depends, you know, like, I kind of think of Hashirama and Minato as, like, different builds in an RPG or something, where I think Hashirama overall is probably better than Minato in a variety of ways, but Minato also has skills that Hashirama doesn't have, and vice versa. So, I don't know. I don't think one of them needs to be categorically better or worse than the other, so to speak. I think they can both just have their own unique specializations and be incredibly strong at doing what they do best, right? It's like the world's greatest drummer versus the world's greatest guitarist. Like, which of them is a better musician? Is it even worth saying that? Like, is it even worth like having that argument? I guess, but like maybe they just have different skill sets and they're just really they epitomize their own skill sets individually.
Overflowing with talent for jutsu and intelligence is not a measure of how good he was with ninjutsu.
It's not a measurement, because a measurement is like if you actually measure it, right? If you're just like guessing or eyeballing something, you're not really measuring it.
We're not talking about a scientific measurement here, dude. We're analyzing art. We're looking at what Kishimoto generally has these characters say about a...
We've been fighting against the hard work versus talent theme for years. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, like, it's definitely a theme that comes up in the story, but it's kind of like saying the theme of Boruto. Well, I don't think Noodles said this specifically, but like, I wouldn't say the theme of Boruto is doping versus hard work, right? It's a big theme in the first part of the story. It's a big theme in the versus Momoshiki arc, but it's not the only thing the story has to say, and it only affects certain characters. Hashirama is basically min-max for combat and tanking, while Minato is a lot more utility and transport, but just happens to be really good for combat. Yeah, and I think Minato is probably like more spec'd into like assassination and trickery and stuff like that, whereas Hashirama, well, I mean, like Hashirama does kind of pull off a silent assassin like nothing personnel kid when he takes out Madara at the end. But yeah, Hashirama is the guy that you want on the front lines defending everybody else, like bringing out the big golem and, you know, healing people, well, assuming he can heal other people, healing himself, like riding, like putting enemies to sleep with his Deep Forest Emergence, the flower blooming thing and everything like that. And then Minato's the guy that you want, like, behind the scenes, like, darting in and out, like, just assassinating people one-on-one, like, setting up his kunai for teleportation, marking people, assassinating them when they least expect it, stuff like that. Ironically, like, Tobirama's build, I think, is closer to Minato's than Hashirama's.
Particular character, and extrapolate.
And maybe you could argue that Hiruzen also... Like, Hiruzen's legacy is closer to Hashirama's, and then Minato's is closer to Tobirama's in a way.
What he could mean by that. And pretty much everybody he has speak about Minato holds him in the highest regard possible. Which means that he's probably...
Like, Madara, like, shits on Minato when he sees him, so that's not even fucking true, for one. For two, it's
Madara
also
doesn't
like...
know anything about Minato. That's also not true. You're also talking a person... No. Madara, A, doesn't know Minato. B, not necessarily shit on him. Shits on everybody.
Wait, one second. Okay, y'all keep doing this thing. It's actually pretty funny. Sometimes y'all will care when you get cut off. Other times you won't. But
yeah, no, that's my bad. I'll let him finish. I'm just getting pissed off.
The chat's noticing it too. Try to give each other turns. Like,
the thing is,
the
the whole debate is getting jumbled up because, like, sometimes Noodles will cut you off while you're talking about something, and you'll cut Noodles off while he's talking about something that's a response to what you're saying, and then we just keep going on like all these subtracks. There's no real point in doing that. Let's just let each other finish that way. We can actually wrap this
It's
shit
going
up.
to be better for the audience, dude. Just be more
Okay,
aware.
yeah, sure, that's fine.
Okay, so all I'm saying is about this is that like someone's natural aptitude doesn't mean they're actually better, because someone could train harder and get better than them at jutsu. That doesn't mean that they had a better natural aptitude, but they could train harder. Is that not true? Is that not a valid thing to say?
I think that
Sorry,
it is.
let me pause and respond to a message, and then I'll get back to this. I don't want to multitask. Take a break and grab a quick drink of water. I'll be back in like 30 seconds. Okay, sorry. 3, 2, 1, resume.
Honest interpretation of this page.
Why is it dishonest?
Well, like I said, I mean, we're just going to be talking in circles if I answer this, because I'm just going to say the same thing that I just said. You know,
Why is
like
it weird
you
then? Why is it
provided
dishonest?
you provided one counterexample. One character doesn't properly know Minato, shitting on him. This was Six Paths Madara. He didn't really. Also, the ultimate trash talker against this mountain of, you have Jiraiya Tsunade, Hiruzen, Orochimaru, Naruto himself, like all these people constantly talk, you know, just fall over, the Kakashi fall over themselves, talking about how Minato's the greatest. If Minato was still around, this and that, this and that. You don't have any like what you're doing is you're sitting on really like shitty, you know, like snake oil salesman. Like, wow, like you're doing what you complained about me doing earlier.
No, I'm not.
Except I think that is a significant.
I think that's fair, yeah.
You're saying like, well, him saying that he has overflowing talent for jutsu doesn't actually mean that he's good at jutsu. It means he could have eventually been good at
You did
jutsu.
draw me, so that's actually dishonest. What I said was, he does have a good natural aptitude for jutsu, but that doesn't mean
Appreciate
someone
the
who
10
works
gifted,
harder
big
won't surpass him. In fact, I would say Naruto worked harder than him and surpassed him with the Rasen Shuriken.
Naruto made a jutsu that Minato wasn't able to make. Yeah.
I know, and he surpassed him because of it. They state this. So
No,
what?
Naruto had not yet surpassed Minato overall when he made the Rasen Shuriken, and that is not what Kakashi says either. So that is false. The Slimy Orb says the builds of each Hokage Hiruzen is Swiss Army knife, Minato's assassin, Tobirama is somewhere in the middle, Tsunade is tank melee healer, and Hashirama is wide scale AoE. That makes sense. Yeah, I like that. I like that approach. That makes a lot of sense.
They don't say that Naruto
He also
has
surpassed him in
so
Sage.
I already know this is a certain.
And I like that they all have their own like asymmetrical ability sets and stuff like that, and that their personalities reflect that too.
Let me put it to you this way.
Because I
Let me put it to you
already
this way.
dismissed
I'm not
Naruto.
saying that Minato doesn't have an aptitude. What I'm saying is this doesn't scale him above any character in verse. We are having a power scaling debate. I'm not necessarily asking you to give a specific quantification or a like specific measurement. I'm
I mean, we're
asking you to
hung up
show
on
me
this
what
one
this.
page because
Hold
you
on,
asked
listen,
me,
listen.
bro. Like, we're gonna run out of time in the
this
debate.
actually confirmably scales him in verse, because otherwise it's
You
nothing
open this
but-
with a narrative argument. You open this by saying that, well, you know, the Akatsuki, they're supposed to be these Biju busters. I tried to counteract by doing the same thing with an opening, then I was going to move on to actual scaling, and now we're held up fucking analyzing every single one of these pages. We're only on page 1 out of like the 5 that you want me to give you.
Well, go ahead and post the second one, because I thoroughly shit on you on this point. So go ahead and get
Okay,
the
yeah,
second
sure, man. The second one, I don't
There's
even...
no need to phrase things like that either. Like, he pointed out a potentially alternate interpretation. That doesn't mean that any shit was involved.
remember which one that was.
It's a perfectly fair thing to point out, but yeah.
Okay,
I
you
gave,
go and get the
yeah,
second
sure, man. The second one, I don't even remember which one that was.
Okay,
I
you just
gave-
drop that one then, whatever it was.
I mentioned the Kakashi one here. I mentioned Jiraiya and Tsunade. Oh yeah, there's Hiruzen as well. You know, saying that Minato would be able to protect the
Appreciate the 10,
village
Parker.
easily if he were there.
Against what?
Against Orochimaru. I'm not saying again,
Okay, let's say-
just so
let's say
we're
it's
clear.
about
This is
Orochimaru.
not a. I'm not just saying. This
I'll
puts
give you
Minato
both.
above
I'll give you
Orochimaru.
both.
I'm saying
I'll
no.
give
Let
you
me
both.
finish. I'm saying this is consistent with the idea that Minato is always used as a top tier benchmark in the series, whatever top tier happens to be at the time. So Kakashi comparing Naruto to Minato when he deflects the tailed beast bombs is just evidence of the fact that Minato is a way bigger narrative milestone than somebody like Kakuzu, who Naruto already beat like 200 chapters prior to the comparison. I think.
Yeah, I think that Noodles correctly identified the problem with this particular scan, and I also think that Swag overall has enough like evidence kind of spread out to corroborate the point in general that his overall narrative point still stands. Now, granted, Noodles isn't quite seeing the connection to scaling, and I get that, but also I think it's fair to say that Noodles also didn't finish his scaling chain, so that standard should apply to both debaters.
I think this is really, really obvious too. And I think
he's a way bigger narrative milestone. Okay, so what actually establishes that he's a milestone for some specific attribute?
The fact that like everybody in the series talks about it. Like we've already went over.
Also, Swag is not like, this is a weird straw man because Swag is not advocating for it being relegated to a specific attribute. He's just saying like overall, right?
You mentioned a couple people. You mentioned Kakashi.
I didn't mention a couple of people. I mentioned like 10 people, and they're all
okay. Yeah, I know you did. And I asked for like each scan.
Like, okay, so if I were to do a Kakuzu versus Pain debate at some point, one of the arguments that I would use for Pain over Kakuzu is that, very succinctly, Pain fights some of the same people that Kakuzu does, but a lot more of them and under worse conditions, and with them having more knowledge about him and with more support, and he's holding back and he's distracted and he still beats them, right? Compare Kakuzu's performance, Kakuzu and Hidan versus Kakashi's team and then Naruto. Compare that to Pain versus the Village, which, by the way, includes Kakashi and Inoshikacho, right? And I could argue that even if I don't do any scaling and show you like who's faster, who's slower, who's got more or less durability, we don't talk about AP, I can just argue that narratively speaking, that what Pain accomplishes is just in a completely different stratosphere compared to what Kakuzu accomplishes. Their performances, as shown in battle, before we even talk about like, because we could disagree and go back and forth all day about like, oh, is this character more or less durable, blah blah blah. At the end of the day, regardless of our interpretation, our ability to communicate with each other about those individual data points, overall the way that Pain is depicted is just like massively in a completely different league from Kakuzu. And so I think that establishes a precedent of like, okay, if you want to get Pain or fucking Kakuzu over Pain, you're going to have to account for that massive gap in potential, and the evidence for that gap in potential is like self-evident by examining those two fights, right? Now, I feel like Noodles will probably disagree with that because I didn't identify like, here is how Pain's speed scales over Kakuzu, here's how Pain's attack potency scales over Kakuzu's durability. My approach would be, my perspective on that is that while it can be useful and maybe even very important to try to identify those discrete things, you can also just approach the conversation from a more gestalt assessment of their performance. I think that's valid too, and I think that that's what Swag's doing here, and Noodles doesn't like that, and I get it, but also I think it's fair play.
And so I can look at them.
Okay, fine then. I guess I'll go get the heroes and scans.
Listen.
Talk about
get the heroes, listen, you don't even have to do that. Like, all I'm going to bring up is, like, you already went over the Kakashi one.
20.
I debunked that. You already went over the Jiraiya and Tsunade one.
Thank you.
Debunk that. The heroes in one, you're saying, like, he thinks that Minato could have, like, protected the village against Orochimaru? Sure. Let's say that's true. Let's say he like...
Chat, just like the last debate, I'm going to go over the donos after the debate is over.
You didn't debunk this. Well, this
so
is
you donated, I missed it. I'm sorry. I'll get to it at the end.
I didn't think we would be held up on these. You didn't debunk the Jiraiya and Tsunade statement. You do agree that these are positive, glowing statements about Minato.
I think if he didn't debunk it, I think he didn't need to debunk it. He just needed to call out whether or not it counts inherently as a piece of evidence, and I think he did that effectively. I think you can give him that point. Slimy says Pain basically beat a fifth of the Shinobi Alliance, averaging out the entire alliance to have each village and samurai give the exact amount of Shinobi. Interesting, yeah. Yeah, it would probably also be worth looking at how Edo Kakuzu did. Like, that's something that, like, in a lot of these debates, I don't really hear much conversation about, like, Edo Kakuzu's feats. I wonder why.
So you're just trying to misplace, or you're just trying to say that my interpretation is misplaced.
Like, if I saw a statement like this for Kakuzu, I'm not pulling it out because it doesn't actually say anything.
Come on, bro. That's not true. No, that's not true. You tried to say that because Itachi and Kakuzu were running side by side, that means Kakuzu is Itachi.
It's very weird for me to hear him say that, like, it's a higher standard singular of evidence to not consider the narrative weight and implications and storytelling importance surrounding a certain character. Like, to me, that kind of reveals just a completely different paradigm that Noodles takes in his approach to this whole endeavor that I get for the purpose of a debate, but it's like, I think that the debate community tends to like give rise to a certain meta, and then based on how that meta performs against other debaters, they then see that as like the performance as evidence of the of that being a correct interpretation of the narrative as well. And to me, the an effective debate should represent, enhance, and highlight the facts. It shouldn't just be like sparring over dissections of the source material that are specifically cherry picked to work well in arguments, right? Like, the narrative interpretation and analysis should not be at odds with the power scaling. Like, they should go hand in hand.
That's not true. Come on.
Now, literally,
To be
what
fair,
I would bring up some.
To be fair, Tenten got the 6 paths fan, and impressively she managed to use it a few times to break at least one math. I think she might have gotten 2 of them, actually. Yeah, like, I wasn't trying to be derogatory, like, do Kakuzu slander or anything like that. I would just be curious, like, he does have some some good feeds, potentially, from that encounter, right? When he's kind of zooming around and picking up people's hearts, and he goes up against a whole crowd of shinobi starting off from 0 hearts and gets all, you know, gets them all replenished, so that counts for something. It's worth talking about.
Something similar to this, I could talk about Kakuzu.
I guess it's just because it like happens off screen that we don't really see a whole lot of it.
90 years of battle experience, the thousands of scars on his body that have untold stories of countless battles and stuff like that. I could bring up like the fact that he uses all 5 chakra natures and then he's super fucking talented with his like forbidden jutsu and shit. I'm not bringing that shit up.
Yeah, I remember in the debate like shouting at my computer, being like, yes, please, for the love of fuck, bring that up. I would much rather hear people talk about that shit than being like, well, Kakuzu's not fast enough to dodge a Bijou Bomb. We can see a Bijou Bomb's destruction in the background. Like, no, who gives a shit about that? Talk about the actual character. Talk about the skills, the abilities. Talk about the personality. Like, that's what I'm interested in. Like, I don't care about that other stuff. I want to understand the characters genuinely and how they would actually fight. Like, and what their personalities are and like how that factors into it and everything. Like, that's extremely important stuff. That's what the manga is about at the end of the day. It's not just about like cherry-picked feats or whatever. So yeah, please, for the love of fuck, talk about that stuff. I don't think they even ever talk about the Jongu. I don't think they talk about like Kakuzu's various nature transformations and whether or not they'd have an advantage or disadvantage over Minato or anything like that. I think Noodles kind of hand waves at one point and says like, well, Kakuzu would blow up the battlefield and that would get rid of all of Minato's kunai. That's the closest really they come to that sort of thing. But like, that is where the most of the fun comes from. And like, yeah, fucking bring that up. In fact, like, the thing about Kakuzu's scars is that like, I'm going to guess that Noodles doesn't know this, but in the data book, it's described that Kakuzu scars himself based on his failures. Like, every time he fails, like, it's part of his like samurai creed, because he used to be a samurai. He like marks his own flesh to remind himself of that previous failure or something like that. I'm probably getting that like partially wrong, but it's something like that. It is like each of those scars tells a very specific story that's very personal to him. So yeah, bring that shit up, dude. Like, why the fuck not? Choji basically one-shot him as a giant Choji, maybe even butterfly giant Choji, so it's basically scaling him to be to below half of the physical force needed to hold back the Ghetto Maso. Oh, okay, gotcha, yeah. So that's valid. I think people should talk about that too. I appreciate you bringing that up, Orb.
That is actually the first thing. The 5 chakra natures thing is actually the first thing that makes Kakashi compliment him. He doesn't think his physicals are worth
yeah, exactly.
mentioning at all, but as soon as Kakuzu starts bringing out extra chakra natures, he's like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. And then he blocks his lightning
strong. I'm not saying, but I'm not using that because just saying something strong doesn't actually scale it.
Well, no, I know. I was using that as an anti-point for...
Like, you're saying Minato's talented. Cool. Where does that scale him? Nowhere.
Well,
he's not that's a straw man too. He's not just saying that Minato is just talented and then that incorporates some kind of inherent scaling. It's that like he is extremely talented, and that's one data point of this larger constellation of data points that shows that he is a milestone for Naruto, and that is a stronger milestone than Kakuzu was. I mean, like, Swag could have rephrased this and just been like, Naruto got way stronger after he killed Kakuzu, and once he got way stronger, he was then compared to Minato, which means Minato would be comparable to much stronger Naruto. It's like Pain defeated a much stronger version of Naruto while holding back and at a massive disadvantage, so Pain would defeat Kakuzu, like something like that, right? It's that kind of relativity scaling. That's what Swag is doing, and like, I guess to give Swag some feedback, he is falling for Noodles nitpicking him on the individual phrasing and like letting Noodles throw these red herrings and like he keeps letting himself get off track. As opposed to just like simplifying, refining, and then sticking to his guns, I guess. It's not like he's dropping the point, but he's also just like, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it, but he's letting himself get led down the forest path. Does that make any sense?
No, I'm not saying Minato's talented, so that scales him A, B, and C. I am saying, and you keep avoiding the fact that
talk about
Naruto being compared to Minato, again, like 200 chapters after Naruto beats Kakuzu in a one-on-one.
That surpassed Minato.
Well, with an attack that Minato wouldn't have been able to do, but that doesn't mean
surpass him because that's what they say in the text.
No,
nobody ever fucking says that the Rasen Shuriken surpasses Minato as a person. Like, I don't know, my car surpassed my computer. Like, what the fuck?
They say that Naruto. I mean, like this. So what they say.
No,
is,
you're disingenuous now, and you won't even admit something.
No, I'm not being disingenuous. I'm trying to find the exact. I don't remember if it's in a data book or if it's in the manga.
Yeah, again, like, and this is something that really frustrates me about the way that Noodles engages with people. Noodles doesn't have to, like, when Noodles is calm and he actually like thinks things through, I think he's perfectly capable of logically understanding the argumentation and pointing out flaws in his opponent's argumentation and making good arguments himself. We just saw him do that. So it's completely unnecessary, and frankly it's kind of like juvenile and embarrassing to be like your opponent is trying to talk and trying to make a point and engage you in good faith, and you're like, because you're an idiot, because you're dumb, because yeah, talk about evading, like, it's just like constantly poking and prodding and being like, like interrupting and just like trying to get under his skin. And that's what I can't relate to at all. It's like, to me, if you're doing that, it's because you don't have enough confidence in your own ability to just conduct the debate like an adult, right? You're trying to get under your opponent's skin to try to create an advantage for yourself, to throw them off emotionally, which is just like pocket sand, right? It's not actually good sportsmanship. If you really actually genuinely care about the competition, right, then practice good sportsmanship and engage in good faith. There's no need for any of this hostility and stuff. Like, I'm trying to play devil's advocate. I'm trying to allow room for, like, there's history between these two people. Maybe he's frustrated. Maybe he has a reason to be. But like, if you do value debate as a sport, as like a competitive enterprise or whatever, show a little, like, a modicum of decorum and just don't act like a brat throughout the course of the debate like this. And that goes for Swag too. I don't like support him going like that, you know? Like, I get getting frustrated, but at a certain point you have to take a step back and be like, wow, okay, I just acted like a middle schooler in front of hundreds of people over anime characters. Like, is that really how I want to be spending my time? Is there not potentially a better way to do this?
Manga, but like, there's a very, very clear statement about this where they say, oh, you know, something the Force wasn't even able to do, combining.
Let's not try to circle back to this stuff. Y'all already argued about this.
Yeah, thank you, Six, for jumping in and trying to
he brought it up again. That's the only reason I replied. So,
I don't know.
But yeah, let's get to your next Minato scan. What else you got? Like, I got Kakuzu Biju level right now. So what's Minato got? What's Minato got that's Biju level? That's what I want to know.
Biju level has not been defined yet. I wish Noodles would do that.
With the Nine Tails. You talking about in the Minato manga?
Six is correct in pointing that out.
Yeah.
So you think the like mental realm scales to the physical world?
Yeah, why not?
I think I might actually stop here because we've been going for 3 hours and this is a good stopping point. And they start on a new topic about the mental realm of the Biju and stuff like that. And that's kind of the next big point after which I think things kind of devolve. So let's make that our stream on Sunday. I'll do a little bit of review, and basically what they're going to talk about is whether or not the interior, like, chakra realm, whatever you want to call it, the mental plane, the Biju psyche chakra plane, whether feats in that realm scale to the regular outside physical world. I think rather than trying to force us into the next segment of the debate right now, I'll rest up, I'll review that stuff, and then next time we can talk about what this realm is in general. We can kind of go over it, and then, you know, we can kind of go from there. I think we talked about it a little bit last time, but yeah, we can kind of wrap it up. And then we'll definitely be able to wrap up the debate comfortably because I think, next time, because I think there's like another 45 minutes at most of them discussing that thing, and then it's basically just like recap and banter and stuff. So, thank you very much for joining me on this continued Kakuzu-related adventure. Oops, sorry, that was the microphone stand. Yeah, I don't know if you guys can hear that. When I move the mic stand, it squeaks. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me. Appreciate the discussion. I appreciate the investment and the community and everything. It's been super, super fun. I will look forward to seeing you guys on Sunday night, probably at 6 o'clock. Probably try to keep that consistent. And in the meantime, yeah, just take care, hydrate, stretch, enjoy yourselves, go outside if you can, be safe, be well, bye-bye. Oh, I see D-Mail. Hey, D-Mail, it's good to see you, and thank you very much for the nice words. It's a wonderful way to end the stream. Yeah,